Hello everyone, and welcome to another amazing story. What if Naruto was an eldritch born? This amazing story was written by Magnus9284. Please support them. Don't forget to like, sub, and leave a comment. Now let's dive in. The Son of the Ancient One. Chapter 1. In the beginning. Just outside of Konoha, almost every shinobi was engaging a deadly foe, one so powerful that they knew that there was no chance of survival, that they knew that nobody were able to defeat on their own, one that was the definition of death, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. There was nothing that could stand on its way, there was no one capable of withstand even the weakest of its attack. It even took the time to kill the shinobis one by one, but the shinobis kept fighting. They had to protect their home, their families. Keep moving, and don't let that demon to come closer to the village. We must buy enough time for the Hokage, one of the ninjas shouted, just as one of the groups was engulfed by the flames of the Kyuubi. It was a lost cause. No one was able to stand up against the Kyuubi until the Hokage showed up. Kyuubi almost laughed at the sight of the last stand. This simple human, standing on the head of Gamabunta, was the only thing standing in the way of freedom. Suddenly, all the build confidence faded away. Behind the Hokage, the Shinigami appeared. This can't be, no one has made a contract with the Shinigami in many thousand years, Kyuubi thought while panicking. Suddenly, Kyuubi felt the coldness of its touch. No. I don't want to die. That was the last thought Kyuubi had before everything went black. In Konoha there were mixed feelings. People was happy, because the Kyuubi no Kitsune was stopped, and still, the sadness of losing Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, was overwhelming. Sarutobi, the third, was appointed as Hokage again, with the newborn son of his friend and last Hokage in arms. Minato, I gave you my word on protecting your child and making him a hero, and I will fulfill this. You can rest in peace, Sarutobi said, unaware of the plans and feelings of the villagers. For some reason, the secret of the ritual reached public ears, and most of the village made a vow on finish the work of the late Hokage. Meanwhile, in an alternate plane of existence. Wake up, Kyuubi heard. It was a strange voice, very commanding, and still, it was like an echo, or a heartbeat. Wake up, there it was again, more clear. The voice not only came from an external being, but also from the deeps of Kyuubi's self. Wake up, once again, the voice commanded, and now, Kyuubi opened its eyes, and was shocked by the place. It wasn't neither hell nor the Shinigami's stomach. It was like a prison, big enough to hold the Kyuubi, but there was nothing but emptiness outside the bars. Well, it's good that you are awake now, the voice spoke once more. This time however, it sounded more human, and it was very near. Who is there? Kyuubi shouted, while looking for the source outside the bars. Just someone who is very bored, and don't look too far from me, I'm right here. Kyuubi looked at the source of the voice, and found a pure white-clad man. You? Yes. Me, the man replied with a mocking voice, and while this could enrage any ignorant being, Kyuubi found itself very scared. What do you want for me? Are you going to offer me my freedom at the cost of my soul? Kyuubi asked, very nervous, but got in reply a laughter from the man. It wasn't a normal or mad laughter, it was a diabolical laughter. But Kyuubi, don't you see that your soul has no value to me right now? Can't you see that if I want it, I just can take it? You are just a spirit being contained inside a human baby, but you are right, I'm here to offer you a deal, the man replied. The last part was so serious that Kyuubi felt that hell or the Shinigami's stomach could be much better than the current situation. Very well, explain this deal, Kyuubi asked, trying to look like being in control, but found itself shivering when the face of the man showed a satanic grin that could have sent both angels and demons crying for their mothers. Sure, you'll see, your soul has been linked to a newborn baby, which means, that should this baby dies, you'll be sent either to hell or the Shinigami's stomach, and you don't want that. No, you want to be free, don't you? Kyuubi swallowed hard. This wasn't going to end well. And, you can free me, at what cost? Kyuubi ventured to ask, knowing that whatever this man wanted, he was going to get it. This explanation was just a formality. Ah, you are very predictable. Yes, I can free you, and yes, it will cost you, but we will discuss that some other time. First, I'll return to you your stolen form, the man said, while extending his hand towards the Kyuubi, and a cocoon of light surrounding it. The cocoon started to shrink, until it was the size of an adult human, then the light faded, and a female body was revealed. Her skin was white, almost like milk, breast-size DD, beautiful hips, golden long hair. Instead of normal ears, she was featuring foxy ears at the top of her head. Her beautiful face was adorned with whiskers marks, and at the base of her spine, 9 tail were weaving, a beautiful sight of a woman, but with all the immense power of the beast that attacked the village. Kyuubi was awestruck. She got her godly body back. Now the only thing left in her list was to give a slow and painful death to Madara, but before she could start to make plans, Te Man interrupted her. Now, aren't you the prettiest demon goddess out there? Here, a little gift for you." The man extended his arm to her, summoning a beautiful white kimono. Kyubi quickly reached for it. With a small blush in her face, she forgot that she was naked. "What's next, Ancient One?" Kyubi asked, expecting now to hear the insane price for her freedom, but the man took out a pocket clock out of nowhere, and looked at the hour. "Oh my, look at the hour, I have to go now, but I promise you to explain the conditions for your freedom when I return. In the meantime, you should learn from the child you are sealed in. The special link I created will allow you to notice everything he feels. Good luck with that, ciao." And then he disappeared, leaving a confused Kyubi to ponder on what did he meant with special link. Suddenly, Kyubi felt fear to everything, fear to the unknown, but it wasn't her fear, it was someone else's fear. Then she understood the condition of this link. She wasn't going to notice the child's feelings, she was going to share those feelings, as if they were their own. Tears were flowing from her eyes, the child was crying for someone. Kyubi fell to her knees, with a flinching heart. She knew that the Ancient One could be cruel, and now she found herself wishing his return. Within seconds, if he wanted her to be broken and ready to pay the price, she was ready now. Chapter 2. Adopting a Demon? It has been 5 years and a half since the Kyubi attack, and the village of Konoha was still sore, slowly recovering from the damage, and still crying for the lost ones. The economy was bad, but there it was, slowly growing. Trade between the village and other towns was smooth, at least for the outside merchants, meaning easy access to the village, and an overcharge on their prices. So, it wasn't strange to see merchants coming to Konoha on these days, which mean less security at the main gate. It was this situation what made possible the arrival of a new citizen to the village, a man clad in a pure white business suit, complete with white silk gloves and white fedora hat. Under normal circumstances, he would only had to pass a lax security. However, this man asked an audience with the Hokage, in order to open a permanent shop in the village. Usually this could not be possible, but the Hokage asked them to allow citizenship audiences, whatever to be distracted from the paperwork. It was this set of coincidences what allowed up the current situation. "So, I got word that you want to become a citizen of this village and open a shop, is this right, mister?" Sarutobi asked. For some reason, the guards forgot to ask the name of this merchant. "Uzumaki, Ankaseth Uzumaki, and yes, that information is correct," the merchant replied, and of course, his name made Sarutobi to almost swallow his pipe. "Uzumaki, it can't be, Whirlpool was destroyed, there is no way that someone of that family could be still alive, unless..." Sarutobi was still on this train of thought when the man started to speak again. "Oh, it seems that you know my name. Hope my cousin have used nice words to describe me. By the way, how is Kushina? Last thing I heard was that she was about to marry a shinobi of this village." At the remark of the man, now known as Ankaseth, Sarutobi went pale. He completely forgot the stories about one of the cousins of Kushina, the only one of her family that didn't took the path of the ninja. Flashback. "So, Minato, are you sure you want to marry her? You know, all her family are renowned shinobis." Sarutobi was trying to reasoning with Minato. The Uzumakis were well known for not taking kindly the marriages with outsiders, let alone the heiress of their clan. "Don't worry, not everyone in the family is a ninja. My cousin Ank, the one who helped us to escape, is a merchant. He was so kind to let us hide in his caravan all the way from Whirlpool to the border of the forest," Kushina replied, defending the most weird of her family. "Yes, you wouldn't believe it, if you don't look at the lack of muscles. He could pass as my double. Of course, you'll need to use a little makeup on him, but otherwise we are identical," Minato continued. Sarutobi found a little hard to believe how someone could neglect the techniques of the Uzumakis, but that didn't distracted him from keeping the lecturing. End of flashback. Sarutobi felt a knot in the stomach. At first he tried to see if it was true, if this man was identical to Minato, trying to find a mistake to dismiss him, but after seeing his blonde hair, blue eyes, and foxy grin, one though exploded in his mind. "I'll be damned, he is identical to Naruto." Suddenly, he found himself replying, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but Kushina died almost 6 years ago." Meanwhile, in the streets of the village. During this 5.5 years, Kyubi has learned many things along with Naruto. Some of them were not to make people angry, not to accept food from strangers, never to walk alone on isolated alleys, and not trust any known person. Naruto also learned well by listening to the voice and advice of Kyubi. He learned how to detect danger and bad intentions, and how to run faster than any other people. Also he learned to conceal his presence from most shinobis, as well as using his sense of smell to detect poisons and drugs, but overall, they learned to listen to each other and cooperate for survival. This was something that they practiced daily, and today was not exception. "Run, Kit, run. I'm on it. What did we do to enrage them like this?" Nothing that I know, but I really suggest you to not to stop to ask, just run. Today was one of those days, when the villagers just felt like chasing the demon kid to beat him to a pulp, just to avenge the spirits of the fallen ones. However, today was also the day when everything will change, because by coincidence, Sarutobi decided to personally show one of the worst houses on one of the worst streets of the village to the merchant, the same street that Naruto was running on. As you can see, we have nothing better to spare. I know you wanted to make business here, but we haven't a place for you to do so. Sarutobi was still explaining to the merchant, trying to persuade him to leave the village before he finds about Naruto, until he heard the voice of a kid asking for help. Both the Hokage and the merchant reacted too slow. Soon Naruto crashed against the white-clad merchant, who fell on a sitting position, hugging a scared kid on his arms. Sarutobi couldn't help but to shout in his mind, "Fu a cook." Now, little kid, what's wrong?" the merchant, Ankaseth, asked with a sweet voice. Naruto turned to face the man, and not recognizing him, he decided it was safe. However, Kyubi recognized him, and finally she felt safe again. "They want to hurt me. I haven't done anything wrong. Don't let them hurt me," Naruto replied, with tears in his eyes. At this Sarutobi asked, "But, who want to hurt you, Naruto?" He immediately regretted the question, because the mob showed up just as he asked. At the sight of the Hokage, the mob tried to disperse as fast as they could. There was a decree that no one will harm Naruto, but since only the Hokage cared, nobody said anything about the constant beatings in the streets and the park, and the fact that Kyubi healed Naruto made it hard to believe that the beatings were too savage. Sarutobi was about to either call Kakashi or chase after the mob, when the voice of the merchant brought him back to the current crisis. "Everything is okay now, little kid, nobody is going to hurt you now." At the sweet voice of the white-clad man, Naruto relaxed. "Thank you, Sob, thank you so much, but they will come back, Sob, if not here, then at home and at night," Naruto replied. "What about your daddy and mommy, aren't they going to protect you?" Ankaseth asked. At this Naruto turned sad. "I have no parents, I'm an orphan, and no one want me in the orphan." At Naruto's reply, the man decided to give him a foxy grin. "Then you can live with me. The Hokage is about to appoint a place I can live, so I can take you and nobody will harm you again." Sarutobi stiffened. The last thing he wanted is for some stranger to take a hold on either the Kyubi or the son of his friend. However, Naruto was jumping in joy. Thank you, but who are you? I have never seen you before," Naruto squeaked in delight. Sarutobi wanted to stop this now. Until this point, neither of them had said their family names, but he had no chance, when the merchant gave a hearty laugh. "Oh my, where are my manners? My name is Ankaseth Uzumaki, nice to meet you, little one." Naruto stood still for a moment, his mind raced, trying to make sense of the current situation. "Uzumaki, just like me, but the Hokage said that I had no family left," Naruto thought. At this Kyubi replied, "Yes, my child, Uzumaki, like you. Maybe the Hokage didn't know, or may they lie to you. Either way, you should ask." Then Naruto asked, "Did you said Uzumaki? Are you an Uzumaki just like me? How is that possible?" Grandpa Sarutobi said I had no family left. At Naruto's reply, both him and Ankaseth turned to face the Hokage with angry eyes. Hokage office, few hours later. "Very well, here are your papers. Now you are a Konoha citizen. You have also been appointed as Naruto Uzumaki guardian. Please, take care of him. Also, Naruto's apartment is now yours, is somewhat small, but is better than the spare apartments right now," Sarutobi said. He wished that the council does not notice this little change for some time. Then he turned to face Naruto, and then talked to him. "As for you, Naruto, I'm really sorry. Word of the entire destruction of your family reached us, and we thought that it was everyone, not only the ninja clan. If I had knew about the existence of this man, I would have searched for him since the death of your parents. I'm really sorry." Sarutobi finished, wishing the best for Naruto, and planning on putting special ANBU team to check every move of this man, just to be safe. Both Naruto and Ankaseth nodded and head to the streets, leaving a worried Hokage in his office. As soon as they left, Sarutobi made what he should have done since the beginning. "Kakashi. It may be a little late to fix some things, but he will start fixing all what he could, starting for the original guardian of the legacy of the fourth." The rest of the day was what could be described as one of the happiest days for Naruto, the first of many, Ankaseth promised. They visited every place of interest for Naruto, like the academy. They ate at every restaurant in the village, and Naruto watched in awe as Ankaseth paid everything as if it were the cheapest thing in the world. Also, Ankaseth suggested to purchase furniture for the apartment, as well as food. Of course there were things that Naruto didn't like the fact that his uncle told him to stop living on instant food. He stressed that real food was required for him to grow stronger. Fortunately, he agreed to allow Naruto to eat at Ichiraku in the near future. At the end of the day, they arrived to the apartment, where both started to clean and repaired as much as they could. During all this time, Naruto told to Ankaseth the small story of his life, how he was beaten almost daily, how hard was to get something to eat, and he told him about Kyubi, his greatest secret. Ankaseth, for his part, listened to everything with great fascination, and in return the merchant told him stories about lots of places around the world, stories about magic and mystery. Naruto felt like dreaming. This was just too perfect to be real, and deep inside him, he was afraid to wake up. That night? "Okay, little one, time to go to bed, tomorrow will be a busy day," Ankaseth said. Naruto reluctantly agreed, and once in bed he asked, "Why, what are we going to do tomorrow?" At this, Ankaseth gave him a warm smile. "We are going to open our shop, also, you'll be able to watch some magic in action." Naruto chuckled at this. In his mind, whenever he said magic, Naruto thought of it as jutsus. "Okay, can you teach me how to do magic too?" At Naruto's question, Ankaseth used his foxy grin. "Of course, little one, I'll be glad to teach you everything about magic." Naruto smiled with excitation. He was going to learn some rare jutsus. However, there was a hole in his soul, and if this was a dream he wanted to give it a super happy ending before awakening to the horrible reality. "I know you are my uncle, but, can I call you daddy?" Naruto asked the last part with a very tiny voice, but Ankaseth heard him anyway, and a soft and sincere smile adorned his face. "Of course, you can call me daddy, dad, or father, as long as you allow me to call you my son," Ankaseth replied while hugging him. Naruto finally found happiness, and in its embrace, he fell asleep. Soon after this, a diabolic grin was plastered on the face of the merchant. "Sleep well, my son, and have sweet dreams, for when you awake tomorrow, nothing will be the same." Said this, he started to cast lots of spells, both dark and light. Chapter 3. The Magic Shop. For 5.5 years, Kyubi waited for the Ancient One to appear. During all this time, she has built 1,000 insults and yells for the day he showed up, and still, tonight, seeing him standing in front of her, in her prison, no word came out of her lips. "How silent? For a moment I thought that you would receive me with insults, yells, and flying pans, so, ready to discuss your freedom?" the Ancient One asked, in such an annoying voice, that it was easy to see that everything went just as he wanted it to go. Kyubi had her freedom at reach, or at least the price for it, but instead of pleading for it, she looked at her feet. "How can I have freedom, while abandoning Naruto-kun?" Kyubi thought. She wasn't sure what to do. Maybe free she could protect him more, or maybe she will be sent to her plane of existence, leaving Naruto to face the world alone. However, thanks to her deep thoughts, she didn't notice the diabolic grin on the man in front of her. "I see, you are ready," the man replied, startling Kyubi, who seemed afraid of the next events about to happen. "You will be freed from this prison when my son reach the age of 13, then he'll be appointed as your master, which means, he'll be able to summon you and your kind, and you will be obedient and protective of him," the Ancient One explained, with a smirk on his face, as if he was letting something amiss. "Your son?" Kyubi asked. There was something wrong with that title? But the Ancient One didn't reply, he only smirked, as if Kyubi already knew who this person was. Suddenly, everything made sense. "Naruto? You appointed Naruto as your son?" Kyubi asked/shouted. At this, the Ancient One gave her a warm and true smile. "Yup, he is my child now." Next morning, Naruto was stirring under the blankets. Not only he had the best sleep in years, but the most wonderful dream too. A man from a distant land just came into his life, and agreed to be his father. But something so perfect can't be true, Naruto sadly thought. "Are you sure, kid?" Kyubi replied, and this made Naruto to fully wake up. "Wait a second, since when I have silk blankets and why my bed is so comfy? Did I had a bed before?" Naruto darted up from his bed, and couldn't recognize the place where he was. "Wow, my old apartment could fit inside this room," Naruto shouted, really surprised. The room he was in was big, a very big bed, a full-body mirror, a maroon carpet on the floor, a closet big enough to hold a party inside it, a beautiful cherrywood desk, equipped with everything a scholar could ask for, a small table beside his bed, and 2 doors, one with the word bathroom. It was like the room of a prince, or a very important politician. "It's good to see you awake, my son. Do you like your new room?" Ankaseth asked as he opened the other door. He was standing there, already dressed for business, in his white attire, minus the hat. Well, yes, but, where are we?" Naruto asked. He was still deciding if this was real, or if he finally got hit hard enough to cause permanent brain damage. "We are at home, now please, come downstairs, breakfast is ready, and we have to open the shop early," Ankaseth stated. Naruto did as he was told. His mind was still processing his surroundings. Outside his room was some kind hall. there were some other doors that he guessed were other rooms like the one where he just woke up. The hall was as 3 times bigger than his room. Just how big is this place, or should I say palace, Naruto thought, and upon descending the stairs, he just got more and more hints that this just couldn't be real. This place is colossal, Naruto shouted in awe. Every room and place was so big and fancy, that the richest clans of the village could find their houses repulsive and tiny after being here, and Ankaseth let out a soft chuckle at Naruto's reaction. It's incredible how a little paint and a well-arrangement of furniture can do wonders with the apparel of your old apartment, don't you think? Ankaseth casually stated, and Naruto froze at this. 1 hour later, main street of the village. Magic, that was the explanation that Ankaseth gave to Naruto. It took several minutes to register it as a valid argument, but it was helped when they exit the apartment. Yes, the same old door that used to be the entrance of his old and little apartment, now was the entrance to a magnificent mansion, and the fact that the apartment was in a 3rd floor made it so hard to explain. That magic was the only thing that fitted that spot, and now, Naruto was watching Father doing something a little less awesome, setting his shop. So, Daddy, how did you summon all the stuff without scrolls, hansings, or blood? Naruto asked. He always had seen shinobis taking out stuff of all sizes from scrolls, but it was weird to see a man taking the pieces for a small mobile shop, lots of flasks filled with colorful liquids, jewelry, weapons, cloths, and lots of things that he didn't recognize, all from a funny-looking briefcase, with no smoke, hand signs, or even blood. That's because I didn't summon it, it was all inside this briefcase. Here, take a look inside, Ankaseth replied. Naruto did as told, and gasped at what he saw inside. It was like a great vault, filled with numerous items. It was enough stuff to supply the village for decades. Wow, is this magic? Naruto asked aloud. Fortunately, by coincidence, there was nobody near to hear him. Yes, son, this is magic, the same that I used for our home, and this is not the only one. After we finish our daily business, I'll teach you the basics of magic. Just remember, magic is a vast secret of art, so just share it with your best friends. Ankaseth said the last part playfully, making Naruto feel like being in a good path. If it can be shared with friends, then it couldn't be evil or forbidden, right? That day, Naruto learned what means to be a merchant. Not only he watched Father to convince some villagers to try his potions, which he compared to medicine, with the difference that the effects were instantaneous and with better flavor, he also saw how this business worked. You have to study the customer, and offer him or her what is best for them to buy. Was one of the lessons, and he learned it with ease. Soon he was able to point what the customer will desire: jewelry for young and pretty girls, cosmetics for the mature women, stamina potions for the mature men, healing potions for the tired shinobis, and so on. Another thing he learned was flattery. Is a special technique that allows the user to induce the desire for a certain thing in the mind of the target. You just need to know what your target wants to hear. Naruto watched his father using this technique with completely master, by making the entire Hyuga clan, buy all the silk robes, kimonos and yukatas from the post, just with a few nice words. Remember, a happy customer will always return to your shop, even if you don't have the best prices in the market. Ankaseth shared this piece of knowledge while putting beautiful hairpins in the hairs of the daughters of Hiashi Hyuga, as a gift, just for being cute and lovely, earning not only giggles from the little girls, but the approbation of the head of the clan. By noon, they closed the shop, with almost no leftovers from the day. During lunch, Naruto also learned the law of the offer and demand, as well as what does it means to make profit. Naruto almost felt bad for the Hyugas. They may have purchased the finest quality of silk, but they paid 20 times the cost of the clothes. Also he was shocked to learn the price of the hair pins. They were made of pure turquoise and diamonds, so the Hyugas got a very good deal that day. However, the most interesting part of the day came in the afternoon. Okay, my son, now I'll teach you the basics of magic. Knowledge on this art is a great responsibility, because unlike the jutsus, magic knows no bounds, and can't be cancelled but by another magic. And so, Naruto's instruction on magic began, and soon he learned that jutsus had nothing to do with magic. Meanwhile, in one of the training grounds, one kid was punching a log. His hands were filled with scars, he was sweating a lot, and his body looked tired, but his spirit was unbreakable. Gai-sensei told me to never give up, and I will never do so. I'll become the greatest ninja. Without ninjutsu or genjutsu, I won't disappoint you, sensei. Rock Lee, the worst student ever in the records of the academy, was decided to accomplish his goal. Little he knew that the destiny had other plans for him, because as his blood was flowing from his scars, a certain entity smelled it, and found it very interesting. Chapter 4. The Awakening of a God. 2.5 years had passed since Naruto got a father. he is 8 now, today is his birthday, a very happy moment, of course, is only a father-son moment, because Naruto does not have any friends yet, but is a happy moment nevertheless. However, this is just the first birthday that Naruto really enjoys. Flashback. 2 years ago. Come on, my son, it's your birthday, you shouldn't hide below your bed, Ankaseth said, with a sweet and reassuring voice. And oh, they are going to come and beat me, they do it every year, Naruto cried. Since he had memory, the villagers always came to beat him at the anniversary of the defeat of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, his birthday. Naruto, no one is going to beat you, there is no one that can come in, not without our permission, there is nothing to be afraid of. Ankaseth tried to reason with him, but it was useless. Naruto kept crying, and refused to come out. Okay, you are forcing me to take drastic measures, Ankaseth said, and left the room. Naruto then felt really bad. For a moment, he felt like he was going to be abandoned, due to his fear on people. Happy birthday, Naruto, my son, Ankaseth's voice filled the room again. For a moment, Naruto thought that he was going to levitate the bed to force him out, but instead of that, Ankaseth knelt at the bedside, putting a small cake in the floor, and pushing it towards Naruto. No matter where you are, I'm here with you, my dear child, Ankaseth explained, and Naruto cried again, but this time with happiness. Last year. Naruto was sat at the dining table, a great improvement to last year. Since got a hold on basic magic, he felt way more secure, but he kept eyeing the doors, afraid of someone that may forced his or her race. Happy birthday, Naruto, my son, Ankaseth said with his sweet voice. He was entering the room, with a levitating cake following him. Naruto just learned that spell, but he was eager to use it as many times as possible, so, he made some plates, forks and vases to levitate to the table. Oh my, you are getting so good at magic, and just in such a short time. At Ankaseth's praising, Naruto blushed. True, Ankaseth praised him daily, but it was due to true advancement. By the way, this year you will enter the academy, I wish you good fortune and the friendship of good people, and remember, if you can't keep on it, I won't be disappointed, for you are still the best mage of the village, Ankaseth continued, giving a warm laugh. Daddy, I'm the only mage of the village, being you an archmage yourself, Naruto reasoned. His wish was to become the first ninja mage on history. At this, Ankaseth made the family trade foxy grin. This year I have a very special gift for you, I hope you find it useful at the academy, Ankaseth told him while making a gift box to appear from thin air. Naruto took it and opened it with haste, and his face brightened up. Tada, your own self-repairing suit, it will reconstruct itself no matter what hits it, and is very resistant, so, it won't rip easily. Also, I added some weather charms, making it waterproof, and it will not hold any smells or dirt, needing very little cleaning. However, it wasn't easy to make it, your favorite colors were hard to get, Ankaseth explained. Naruto watched in awe the suit. It contained a red business suit, red tie, black shirt, black shoes, white gloves with magic circles to channel his magic easily. Every piece of fabric was filled with runes, magic circles, and magical inscriptions, at least 5 types of magic, a true masterpiece. With religious care, he changed into these new clothes, and after materializing a full-body mirror, he looked at his reflection with pride. Thank you, Daddy, I look like a true businessman, the perfect disguise for a ninja mage, is awesome, believe it. End of flashback. This year, the main hall was being decorated for the birthday. Naruto no longer feared the villagers, even if their descendants tried to make his life a hell at the academy, he was above everyone else, but this year had also brought some interesting things. So, sitting in a sofa, Naruto started to resume his year to his father, Ankaseth, who listened with fascination, awaiting for the main event of the day. This year has been most interesting. While most of the kids at the academy hates me, there are some that are friendly to me, and some are in my class, Naruto squeaked in delight, and Ankaseth gave him a warm smile. Really, that is very good, who are they? Do you think we can invite them for the party? Ankaseth asked, with his usual sweet voice, already knowing the answer. Well, there is Shino Aburame, very silent, but friendly anyway. Unfortunately, he is attending some business with his father. There is Shikamaru Nara, somewhat lazy, but friendly, just as Chuji Akimichi. Too bad that their parents hates me, Naruto explained. Oh, and, any girlfriend? Ankaseth asked, without losing his foxy grin. Well, there are 2 girls on my class, one that I liked, Sakura Haruno, but she is a banshee, yelling at everything. She has become worse since the last Uchiha got advanced 1 year ahead of us. They say that he is a genius. And there is Hinata Hyuga, I've caught her looking at me from the shadows, but Kyuubi-chan don't feel anything but positive feelings and a bright aura from her. However, she always flee when I got near her. Unfortunately, his father seems to hate me with a passion, which is strange, since he is one of our best customers, Naruto explained with a slight blush. I see, so, anyone we could invite, it would be so lonely in this big hall, only the two of us, Ankaseth asked, savoring with anticipation the next moment. Well, there is this guy that was 1 year ahead of me, he is really friendly, and have good manners. I got word that he was downgraded 1 year, so, he'll be with me next year in class. His name is Rock Lee. Naruto said his name with some sadness, because he also got word on another thing concerning this boy. Well, let's go for him, he surely will enjoy this cake, Ankaseth spoke, knowing exactly who this boy was, and who he will become. Naruto couldn't help but to smile. He was going to invite a friend for his birthday party, the first of many, he told himself. Meanwhile, in the memorial stone, Rock Lee was crying his heart out. This seemed to be his worst week. 2 days ago, he got word that he will have to repeat the year in the academy. His grades were the lowest in all the academy's history, or so they said. This was a low blow to him. Guy-sensei promised that if something like that happened, he will fix that with a talk about how he could become a taijutsu genius, but there was a problem with that. Today was the day Guy was bound to return from the lands of the West. He went to a mission, but the rest of his team returned without him, missed in action, they said, meaning that he just lost the closest thing he had as a father, and his only way to become a ninja. So, in front of the stone, he did the only thing he could thought, cry, unaware of the two figures that were watching him. Are you okay? Naruto asked, true concern in his voice. The crying boy turned to face them. He recognized them as the merchants, kind people that always treated others with sweet words, so, he did his best to answer politely. No, sob, Guy-sensei will never return, sob, he was like a father to me, sob, I'm alone now, the boy replied, eyes filled with tears, and still, Ankaseth smiled. There is no need to cry, Guy will watch over you forever, for he is already toasting for you in the dining halls of Valhalla, wishing you a long life full of victory and adventure, a life guided by your courage. Ankaseth spoke with a voice filled with knowledge and wisdom, almost religious. Naruto wasn't startled by this. He has gotten to know that his father always knew a lot, if not everything. What almost startled him was the brightened face of Rock Lee. Rock Lee was able to see that picture, Guy-sensei toasting for him, in the great halls, surrounded by the great heroes of the long-forgotten times. Suddenly, he realized something. This stranger knew about that, something that he believed only he could imagine, and this made him to look with fear at the tall blonde man. You are wondering how I know, right? Ankaseth asked. This returned the foxy grin to Naruto's face. Lee nodded, still eyeing the adult. You know, there is a cake waiting for us at our home. We can eat and drink, and toast in the name of Guy-sensei, and then we can talk about the long-forgotten knowledge. What do you think? Naruto proposed. The ways of Ankaseth already made his own. Lee was about to argue, when his stomach agreed for him. After all, there was nothing waiting for him at his table. Uzumaki's apartment, a few minutes later. Wow, this place is bigger than it looked in the outside. Lee was amazed. The place was a palace. What is important of a house is not the size, but the people who inhabits it, Naruto explained, using a sweet voice, just as Ankaseth would have done. Indeed, but let's not talk with empty stomachs. Today is a day to celebrate, Ankaseth added, and Lee nodded. True, today is the anniversary of the battle against the demon fox, right? Lee asked. We don't celebrate that event, Naruto replied, still with a smile. Today we celebrate something more important, the birthday of my dear child. Happy birthday Naruto, Ankaseth explained, and Lee quickly congratulated Naruto. After the dinner, that Lee conceded to be the best food he ever tasted, Ankaseth proceeded to give a new gift to Naruto, another piece of clothing. Here, my dear child, here is the rest of your new outfit. This took longer to make, because it's alive, Ankaseth explained. He allowing the orange trench coat to wrap itself around Naruto, who couldn't help but to grin at the gift, knowing that it will help him to be aware of his surroundings more easily. Ankaseth completed the outfit by putting an orange wide-brim hat in Naruto's head. Of course this show scared the poor Lee. How did you do that? Lee asked with a fearful voice. Something inside him told him about the dangers of what he just saw. It's magic, Naruto replied as if it were as natural as breathing. Magic, you mean, no jutsu, but magic? Lee asked, not sure if he did it properly. Of course, but the true question is, how do you know the difference, or is there any difference at all? Asir, Ankaseth asked. Then he walked downstairs, heading to the basement, while the two kids followed him. No need to give orders. Naruto followed him because it was the natural thing to do, while Lee followed him because he felt that the answers were with him. As they reached a golden room filled with images in the walls, Ankaseth asked Lee to step in the center of the room, where a magic circle was drawn. Step in the center of the room, and let the lost knowledge of your people flow in your soul, Asir. Lee did as told. He wasn't actually listening to Ankaseth. The room was actually calling him, and as he stepped in the circle, something awakened inside him. I am Tyr. Legions of demons, angels and arcane creatures felt a shiver in their spines. Something that wasn't mean to be, just happened, and all of them cursed the only being capable of such transgression, the Ancient One. Chapter 5. The Princess. 2 years have passed since the awakening of Tyr, who decided to keep the previous name of his current body. He also became Naruto's best friend. His cheerfulness and kindness remembered him so much of Baldur, his beloved brother, and in these 2 years, that friendship has grown even more. Of course, things weren't easy for the reborn god and the son of the Ancient One. Flashback. Hey, look at that, the Dobe and the Klutz, hanging around together like a couple, one of the kids shouted, signaling to Naruto and Lee. Both of them were having lunch peacefully, until this boy decided to start teasing them. I can't believe they are calling you Dobe. You are by far the smartest one of this village of weaklings, Lee whispered to Naruto, who only was smiling. Oh, let them be, they are just ignorant. I mean, we have to keep this charade. I play dumb, and you restrain yourself as much as you can, otherwise we won't have the fun we want after the graduation, Naruto replied. I guess the rumors are true. By looking at you whispering like that, it's easy to see that you are a gay couple. Not really surprising, considering the losers you are. One boy came closer to them. Naruto recognized him. It was the last Uchiha. And what's wrong with you, dressing like that? A pair of clowns if you ask me, Sasuke continued. Both were dressed very different from the rest of the students, Naruto with his businessman suit and orange trench coat and hat, and Lee with loose green pants, brown boots, heavy leather bracers, and a fishnet shirt that did nothing to hide neither his growing muscular body, and his massive collection of tribal tattoos. Some of them were even on his face, unknown to everyone. These tattoos were both gravity seals and movement restraining seals. What do you mean by clowns? These clothes are made of the finest quality of materials you can find in the world, and they look cool too, or are you jealous of not affording the quality of our goods? Naruto replied, still holding his smile. Lee was getting angry, not for the words of the brat, but for his attitude. Magni, his nephew, and his high ego were nothing compared to this Midgardian kid. Bah! You are so jealous of me and my greatness, that you resort to using stupid things like quality of your clothes to hide your mediocre skills, very suited for the son of second-hand trader if you ask me, Sasuke concluded. Lee had enough. This Midgardian has badmouthed them more than enough to be rewarded with the wrath of every god, but to insult Naruto's father, the kind man that also helped him to awake from his slumber, it turned him into full God of War mode. He was about to rip off Sasuke's head, when the voice of someone known stopped him. Uchiha, what the hell do you think you are doing? Neji shouted, disgusted by the behavior of the last Uchiha. What do you think am I doing? I'm just placing these two weirdos in their place, Sasuke replied. Smack. Just to be hit by a giant paper fan, wielded by Tenten. I'm sorry for this, Uzumaki-san. Lee, we'll make sure he won't tease you anymore. Neji bowed and apologized, while Tenten was binding the Uchiha heir with steel cords. Thank you, Neji Hyuga. I'll remember to throw something nice for you and your girlfriend in the next purchase you make, Naruto said, earning a deep blush from Tenten, and another bow from the Hyuga prodigy. End of flashback. Today, at Naruto's 10th birthday, things were going to be great. The party will finally be a little more bigger than 3 people, because they decided to trap a certain Hyuga girl in a pincer formation, which is what has come to the current situation. Both Naruto and Lee were at the range training area, which was pretty empty, since everyone else was heading home. Only the two of them, a shy girl hiding behind a corner, and another man who was so well concealed that only God knew he was there. May the wishes of your heart will be granted, brother Naruto, for you have worked for them with all your will, Lee stated. He was sitting inside the range training area, leaning against one of the logs that were being used for training. Thank you for the blessing, but you should look for happiness too. There should be a worthy girl for you out there, Naruto replied, while holding his new weapon, Kasul, towards the target that was just a little higher than Lee's head. Hinata was watching them. Despite how shiny was what Naruto was holding, she was more focused on him, his stance, his features. She was completely mesmerized by him, who always showed a warm smile and a kind heart, despite how harsh the life was with him, and those clothes just enhanced everything, adding a mysterious air, which was boosted with his confident way of walking, as if the world has nothing to throw at him that could affect his life. Yes, she was in love with him, the whole him. Not like the fangirls of the last Uchiha, who only loved the surface. Bang! The alien sound brought Hinata back to reality, and she couldn't help but to stare at the results. A hole in the log, just above Lee's head, signaled where the projectile impacted. It was a nice hole, 13 millimeters wide, At first she couldn't make sense of the weapon and the result, until Naruto shot again, and again, and again. Every time he do this, a new hole appeared just above Lee's head. The time between the sound and the impact was very close to nothing, meaning no way to evade it. It was one hell of a weapon, and it made Naruto to look even more unreachable to her. "Looking at my son?" Ankaseth suddenly asked from behind her, and this earned only one reaction from the shy girl. Eep. She was caught, and by no other than the father of her crush. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. I never thought that I could sneak behind you to begin with. You are a ninja, and I'm a merchant," Ankaseth explained. Hinata was still hyperventilating, and blushing, not only for being caught, but for being utterly careless. True, this was one of the kindest man she has ever met, but to let your guard down for a simple civil was unforgivable. Hinata was still trying to get a word from her mouth, but none was able to get out. She was paralyzed. She wanted to impress this man, but only was embarrassing herself. She was in the worst situation possible, so she did the only thing she felt smart, or stupid, if you caught the intention. She sent a silent prayer. "To whoever God is listening to me, please, help me to get out of this situation and get the love of Naruto-kun." When she finished, she heard something that sounded like "granted." This scared her, and the fact that it sounded like certain tattooed boy made it even more freaky. Suddenly, she felt hands on her shoulders, and upon turning to face who was touching her, she was greeted by a foxy grin. "Caught you! You have escaped every time I tried to talk with you, but today you are going to answer to me." Naruto spoke, and Hinata was about to freak out. "Did I annoy him? Oh, now he hates me," she thought, but before she could do anything else, Naruto continued. "So, do you want to be my girlfriend?" he asked with the warmest smile she had ever seen. Hinata turned to a bright shade of red, and with a loud yes, she fainted in Naruto's arms. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks had passed, and Hinata is still humming love songs. Once she promised herself that if Naruto asked her to be his girlfriend, she will put all discretion on that, but since she woke up in the arms of her beloved Naruto, she chained the discretion and shyness to a colossal stone and threw it into the deeps of the sea. Figuratively, it was now public knowledge that Naruto and Hinata were a couple, and while some people were happy for them, Irika, Sarutobi, and Ankaseth, many others were enraged for this turn of events. "This can't be allowed. The heir of the Hyuga clan must not befriend the demon fox," one of the Hyuga elders screamed. At first they believed this to be a joke, then they believed that it wouldn't last more than a few days, but by the looks of it, this was bounded to be long-lasting, so they called to an emergency meeting. They will not allow the demon fox in their ranks. "First of all, I have to remind you that the kid is only the vessel of the demon, and has not shown any signs of corruption," Hayashi suddenly responded, and everyone else gasped. "Are you siding with the demon fox?" the head of the elders asked with indignation. "No, I'm only stated the facts, as well as remember you both the dying wish of the fourth, as well as the decree of the third." At Hayashi explanation, everyone went silent. "Still, as the heir of the clan, she must not be allowed to be with this boy," one of the elders said, spiting venom along with the word boy. "And the heir will not be dating the Uzumaki boy. She is still too young to think on men," Hayashi replied, and this earned questioning looks from the elders. "Are you telling us that your daughter, Hinata, is not dating the boy?" another elder asked, not believing the head of the clan. "Don't mistake me, Hinata is indeed dating the Uzumaki boy, but she is not the heir. Hanabi has shown herself more deserving of that title," Hayashi explained, in a last attempt to save his daughter. Since the day she came home with that smile, he promised to the spirit of his late wife to protect that happiness at all cost. "It almost sounds as if you approve that relationship," one of the younger elders stated, and the rest glared daggers to Hayashi. "She is no longer the heir. I fail to see what harm could come from that friendship. In any case, it will benefit us. By keeping a closer eye on the legacy of the fourth, if corruption is shown, we can take action faster," Hayashi quickly replied, not wanting his last stand to fall so soon, and then the older of the elders growled. "Very well, but since she is not the heir anymore, she will be marked tomorrow at night." Meanwhile, in the depths of the park, Hinata was training. Since she wasn't confident enough to train her juken, she decided to try another thing. Her father never opposed to train other styles. He said it would be beneficial to learn how they were inferior to the family style, so she decided to try something different. Ankaseth suggested her to train with a weapon. Some of the greatest warriors are so shy that they hide behind their blades. Hinata took this to heart, and asked for a wooden nodachi to practice. She was just a starter, but already got a pair of eyes watching her. "Nice swordplay, where did you learn it?" a female voice startled Hinata, who cursed for being so careless about her surroundings. As she turned to face the owner of the voice, she spotted a girl who couldn't be older than her. She was wearing a black hakama and gi, with the symbol of a raven on it. she also wore fingerless gloves, her skin was pale and her long silver hair was tied in a high ponytail. Also, the bakken in her right hand didn't go unnoticed. I'm just learning it. The father of my boyfriend taught me the basic moves, but he told me to make my own style. At Hinata's reply, the other girl frowned. She didn't seem to like what he heard. I see, let's spar, the girl shouted, and before Hinata could argue, she found herself barely blocking an incoming slash. No, wait, stop, I don't want to fight, Hinata screamed. She tried to reasoning with the crazed girl, but for every word she shouted, she had to block another 5 slashes. The strength of this girl was notorious. Hinata's hands were getting numb, but when everything seemed to be lost, a scary roar made them to stop. Both turned to look at their side, and a big grizzly bear came out flying, and crashed in a tree, at the opposite side from where they were looking. What the hell? The silver-haired girl was shocked by the scene, but Hinata looked somewhat calm. Then from the direction from where bear came, a young and tattooed boy came out. Come back here, and face your destiny. I'll make a big feast with your meat, and your fur will make a beautiful rug in my room, Lee shouted. The silver-haired girl followed him with the eyes, as if he was the only thing on earth, and watched Lee as he beat the bear to a pulp, with his bare hands. She never noticed Hinata getting closer, neither how she raised the wooden nodachi over her head. Wham! OWIE, the girl shouted in pain, dropping the bakken, and eyeing Hinata. Why did you attack me without warning, and who are you anyway? Hinata asked. The shy girl was hidden behind the blade. Hump, I told you that we were going to spar. No warning is needed between sword users. As for my name... The girl was about to say something, when a deep and manly voice shouted in the distance. Reiko! Where are you? If you are fighting again, you will face the wrath of my Zankanto. At the sound of those words, the girl, now known as Reiko, started to freak out, and then darted in the direction of the voice, leaving a confused Hinata. A weird and wild girl, isn't she? Naruto asked, while hugging her from behind. Hinata only nodded. She was still unused to the sudden apparitions of her boyfriend, when Hayashi came into sight. Hinata, and Naruto? I have something important to tell you. Usually, Hinata would start to freak out, because her father was very protective of her, and he didn't like to see his daughter being filled up by any male. Uzumaki's apartment, a few hours later. So, basically, you are telling me that Hinata will be forced to be marked by a cursed seal, only because she is dating you, Ankaseth asked to the couple, and while both nodded, only Naruto expressed himself. Is completely unfair. I will not allow that to happen. Hinata blushed, but felt the need to clarify the things. Naruto-kun, this can't be avoided. If I'm not marked, then we'll not be allowed to be together, Hinata explained, still sad by this turn of events. It's unfair anyway, Naruto replied. Well, there is still an alternative way to solve this dilemma, Ankaseth started, with his sweet voice. This can't be good, Kyubi warned. What are you talking about? Dad is never wrong, Naruto defended. I know Kit, but while it will be good for you, I can't help but to feel sorry for the souls that will be bashed for whatever he is going to do, Kyubi replied. And what is this alternative way? Hinata asked, with hope in her voice. Well, you will have to attend to the ritual, while we hide you here, Ankaseth explained, but Hinata only got more confused. Follow me, we must start now, Ankaseth said. He then guided them to the basement, into a big room, somewhat dark, and with a circle drawn in the floor. The circle showed a very complex pattern inside it, along with smaller circles. On these smaller circles were some bowls filled with many compounds, and 3 tiny circles were in the middle of the entire circle. This is not good at all, Kyubi warned again, much more scared than before. Kyubi-chan, you should have more faith on Dad, he has never disappointed us, Naruto defended again. Kyubi almost felt as if Naruto were making a copy of the diabolic grin that could send shivers through the spine of the fiercest demon. Now, to make sure this will work, you must willingly put the next 3 objects in the 3 circles in the middle of the room, a strand of hair, a piece of your clothing, and a droplet of blood, Ankaseth instructed. Hinata did as told, without hesitation, knowing that with the cursed mark, they will force her to marry another person instead of Naruto. Very well, now step aside, and be ready to greet whatever comes from this, Ankaseth said. But before anyone could ask about the safety of this procedure, Ankaseth placed his hands at the border of the circle. The borders started to shine, and then, all the compounds in the bowls started to fly toward the center of the circle, where a cocoon of light formed. Soon, all the elements were sucked by the cocoon of light, and a red light started to fill the room. Here is where the true masters got separated from the simple experienced ones, Ankaseth said. Then he started to cast spells, returning the white light to the room. Soon, the light faded away, and in its place, a girl was standing. She was a carbon copy of Hinata, and she was naked. Hinata turned to face Naruto, who was covering his eyes with his hat, Hinata made a mental note to reward him in the near future. My, why are you so shy? Don't you wish me? You can take me if you want, and as many times as you want, Naruto-kun, the copy of Hinata almost sang, in a suggestive manner that was very un-Hinata. Said girl was so red that a tomato could die of shame at her side, and still, Naruto didn't took the hat from his eyes. Speak your name, fiend, Ankaseth commanded. Ask to the girl you molded me after, I'm her sin after all, the copy replied, with not so much respect. Hinata couldn't believe it, she was looking at the incarnation of her darkest secrets, the last thing she wanted others to know, and a simple word left her lips. Lust. Chapter 6. Graduation. 2 years have passed since the day of the seal ritual. It's the day of the graduation, one last exam and the kids will be granted their hitayate, the sign of being a shinobi. Naruto, Hinata and Lee, today stand in the yard, along with many other students. Anyone that looked at them today wouldn't recognize them. They changed a lot. Naruto has grown, and even when his suit grew with him, he looked more strange. He added orange sunglasses to his outfit, which prevents his enemies to tell what is he thinking. Lee was an impressive sight, being now almost as tall as Irika. As for his clothes, he only removed the fishnet shirt, allowing everyone to see his now muscular body. He was the envy of any bodybuilder, with rock-like muscles, capable of releasing bone-shatter punches and kicks, and his unruly hair reached his shoulders. A few of the Uchiha fangirls were rethinking their choices. Hinata changed too. She allowed her hair to grow up to her waist. She changed her outfit too. Now she is wearing sky-blue stretchy pants and top, and is covered by an unbuttoned white coat. At her feet, white boots. An odachi is tied in her back, the shy girl long gone, and she allows everyone to see the seal on her forehead, and she could help but to remember how everyone was fooled by her twin. Flashback. Hayashi and Hinata were walking to the Uzumaki's apartment. He was trying to leave behind the screams of agony that his daughter shouted when she was being sealed. If not for her smug smile right now, he would swear that his true daughter got sealed. Still feeling guilty? Don't be, you haven't harmed your daughter. As for me, I'll be fine, the double of his daughter said. Hayashi knew he must ask how did they fooled the Byakugan, but he was more worried for his daughter's safety and the state of her double. As soon as they arrived, Hayashi knocked the door, and he was greeted by no other than his own daughter. Dad, please come in, Hinata said. Hayashi and Hinata's twin entered with haste, not wanting any unwanted eyes to witness the two girls. Once inside, Hayashi couldn't help but to gasp. What looked like a humble apartment on the outside, put to shame the great Hyuga house. I'm glad you made it, and without unwanted attention. That's good, Ankaseth greeted them, breaking Hayashi's amazement. You know, this mark hurts a lot, Hinata-chan. Naruto-kun, you owe me a big reward. Hinata's twin talked to Naruto and Hinata, who blushed madly, knowing what she wanted. Can we discuss that later, like when my father leaves? Hinata asked politely and with a low voice. She didn't want to deal with her in front of her father. Uzumaki-san, I'm grateful for your assistance in protecting my dear daughter. Still, it amazed me how identical they are. However, I'm forced to ask you, how did you make her able to fool the Byakugan? It should be impossible. Hayashi started to talk with Ankaseth, who only gave him the Uzumaki foxy grin. Well, that's for me to know, and for you to wonder. Right now, the important thing to do is to mark Hinata's forehead with a special ink. This one will fool anyone into think that it's a seal, but it will be completely harmless to her, Ankaseth explained. I see. I can't thank you enough for everything you have done. If there is something I could do to repay all your kindness and resources, Hayashi started, still a little baffled by the skill of the merchant, but Ankaseth didn't allow him to finish. Actually, there is something you can do. Can you kindly put your signature at the end of this harmless bunch of paper sheets? Ankaseth asked with his sweet voice, and as Hayashi started to read the document, Hinata's twin dragged both Hinata and Naruto to a room in the back, ready to take her reward, by force if needed. End of flashback. As the day proceeded, only 6 students were left to take the tests, and these 6 were the most troublesome kids in the academy. Irika, not wanting this test to be run by him for any longer time than required, decided to begin. Okay, Reiko Zonbolt, please, show us your skills on the ranged area. Irika motioned for the silver-haired sword user, who was holding a red katana, instead of the bakken she wore when she and her father returned to Konoha a few years ago. Reiko stood at the edge of the ranged area. Instead of taking a shuriken, kunai, or sunban, she unsheathed her katana. With a swift movement, she seemed to caress the edge of the blade, and then, in a fast motion, she moved the tip of the blade toward the log, without loosing her grip, while shouting, Denkaseka Giri. The result was instantaneous. The log got cut in half. Irika gasped. He knew about the Zonbolt's mad sword skills, but watching them in action was even more freakish. Okay, you pass, now head to the combat area please, Irika finally said, just to call the next one. Matsuke's Mita, your turn. Matsuke's was a tall and dark-skinned boy. For a full description check my profile. Right now he have his complete body, not as tall as Lee, but very impressive. Standing at the edge of the ranged area, he reached from a pocket on his pants, and took out a knife. Without hesitation he threw it at the log, scoring a nice hit, almost at the very center of the target circle. A nice performance. Good, you pass. Naraku, your turn, Irika called the next one. Naraku was a boy with pale skin and long black hair. He wasn't anywhere near a tall height. He was wearing monk-like robes and unlike anyone else, he was barefoot, a quiver at his back and composite bow in hand. What was notorious in this boy was the bandages at his eyes. He was blind. The log is 90 degrees to your left, please be careful, Irika warned. The blind boy just smiled, turning to be facing the log. He took an arrow from the quiver, and with a fast succession of moves, he put the arrow in the bow, pulled back the wire, and allowed the arrow to fly, scoring a bullseye. Wow! Everyone shouted. It was impressive, and before Irika could tell him that he passed, 5 more arrows scored a bullseye, every one of them splitting into the previous arrow. What the hell? You pass, Hinata, your turn. Hinata set feet on the ranged area. She agreed with Naruto and Lee that this was a good moment to show off some skill. Without moving, she only said, Arctic Judgment. Suddenly, a dozen of spears made of ice stabbed the log without mercy. Irika was so shocked that the notebook slipped out of his hands. Oh my God, what kind of freaky jutsu was that? Irika's mind was racing, while Hinata gave him a cute smile. You pass. Naruto, your turn, Irika weakly said. Naruto faced a newly placed log. He lazily reached for Kasul, and pointed it against the log. This wasn't the first time Irika saw that freaking weapon, but he wanted to see it more close now. Naruto pulled the trigger a few times, scoring perfect shots every time, and Irika got startled by the loud sound of the gun. Still, he managed to notice the spikes on the chakra at every shot. One hell of a weapon. Okay, you pass. Lee, you pass too. Now head to the combat area. Irika's avoidance of Lee wasn't unnoticed. Irika-sensei, why aren't I tested like the others? Lee asked, with a raised eyebrow. Because last time you shattered the log with a stone, that was twice my size. Now go to the next test, Irika shouted, not wanting to further discuss. At the combat area, Mizuki was ready to test the last kids, the troublesome ones. As usual, he was supposed to restrain himself. He just needed to check that the skill level of the students was enough to start their lives as shinobis. But this year's exam was special. Sure, 4 of the kids were going to have it easy with him, but the demon kid and the brute will have to face him at full force. He was still resented against Lee for sending him flying from the hot springs to the forest of the death. With one hit? If I weren't holding back he would be the one still sore, Mizuki thought, and then proceeded to call the students. Reiko, step into the circle. While Reiko unsheathed her katana, Mizuki only took one kunai, in a reverse hold. At that second, the battle began. It was a savage exchange of slashes, both showing a high degree of skill. Mizuki had some problem to restrain himself, but decided to go harsh against her. Taking chance of an opening, he hit the katana, sending it flying upwards, disarming the girl, but as he was about to point the kunai to her throat, she took his arm and performed a judo throw, followed by her feet hitting his chest. Then she raised her hand to the sky, to catch her sword with ease, and placed the edge against Mizuki's neck, who only gave a chuckle. Not bad at all. You pass. Matsuke's, you are next, Mizuki called. Matsuke's entered the circle, and untied the zanbato at his back. Mizuki took of his giant shuriken, ready to use it as a shield. Their battle was less impressive than Reiko's, much slower, but unlike Reiko, Matsuke's landed hits with bestial force. After a few attacks, and with not much of an opening in his stance, Mizuki called to a stop. Okay, you are good enough, you pass. Can someone guide that blind kid into the circle? He is next, Mizuki called. With the help of Reiko, Naraku was able to enter the circle. This time, he was wielding a long staff instead of the bow. He was standing in a relaxed stance, no signals of being ready. Mizuki decided to go with taijutsu. If he was able to evade 1 of 10 attacks, he will pass. As Mizuki started his attack, he regretted it. Soon he found himself barely able to evade the attacks of the blind boy, who was striking with deadly accuracy. Stop already, you pass. Now, someone take him out of here. Hinata, you are next. Mizuki called it to an end. As Hinata entered the circle, Mizuki had a hard time to decide if he should be prepared for the juken, or the nodachi. She wasn't moving at all. He decided to go with taijutsu again, but as he took the stance, the sound of a resheathing sword caught his attention. several small cuts appeared on his arms and legs, nothing serious, but it was testament of her sword skill. Awesome, I didn't saw you moving, you pass, you. Uzumaki, come here now, Mizuki called the next one. As Naruto stepped on the circle, Mizuki started to make plans to kill him. To him, both Naruto and the merchant, who adopted him, should be decapitated, and their heads hanged on the main gate of the village, but right now, stabbing the heart of the demon fox was enough, so, he took out a kunai, and decided to start sooner, just to find that he was unable to move. He looked at the shadows, they weren't crossed, there were no wires, and still, he was caught into some kind of holding jutsu. Naruto was holding his open hand at him. Do you give up now, or shall Kasul shine once again? Naruto warned. Mizuki was not ignorant about that hellish weapon, so, he decided to be smart. There was another one who was bound to taste his rage. Okay, you pass, just remember that in a mission, your enemy will not surrender that easily, and even if they do so, you may get backstabbed. Now go, and call your brute friend, Mizuki replied, and Naruto left with a foxy grin on his face. Soon, Lee stepped into the circle. Lee raised his fists into a boxing-like stance. Mizuki didn't thought of that as taijutsu anymore. In his eyes, Lee was only a brute, so, he took his giant shuriken, deciding on not letting this boy pass. Without warning, he leaped for a fast kill, but Lee evaded. Then they started to exchange deadly blows, but none got hit. Mizuki decided that it was enough, so, he infused his muscles with chakra, gaining more speed, and starting to hit Lee, with not much effect. Lee getting annoyed, and still unused to the last restriction seal, broke it off. Fifth seal, release, Lee almost whispered. Mizuki was doing a jump over Lee, in order to finish him with a backstab. He never got the chance. Before landing, he watched Lee to turn around to face him, with extended arms to his sides. Then, in a fast move, he made a clap. The effect was brutal, it sounded like a thunder, and the shock wave was more than enough to maul Mizuki's body and shatter the shuriken. Lee watched Mizuki fly out of the circle, and painfully landing against a tree. I guess I pass, or do you want to continue? Lee asked, and Mizuki only motioned for him to leave. He swore under his breath that one day he will get his revenge. Inside the classroom, the last test was taking place, and only 6 students remained to be tested. Okay, Reiko Zonbolt, please, perform a henge and 2 bushins, Irika asked. Reiko did as told, first transforming into her father, Sanger Zonbolt. After dispelling it, she made 2 perfect bushins. Good, you pass. Matsuke's Maeda, you are next, please, perform the same jutsus, Irika instructed. Matsuke's did as told, first transforming into a red horse, and then making 2 bushins, a little less than perfect. Okay, good enough, you pass. Naraku, your turn, use the same jutsus, Irika called the blind boy, who did as told, transforming into Irika, and then making the bushins, a prefect performance. Good, you pass. Hinata Hyuga, please, do the same, Irika called. Hinata did things her own way, with no hand seals. She transformed into a beautiful angel made of ice, then she performed her own jutsu, and 2 bushins made of ice formed. They were solid, unlike the previous bushins. Irika was awestruck. What the, wow, okay, you pass. Rock Lee, you are next, same jutsus, Irika instructed. After seeing Hinata making such high-level jutsus, he was ready to see Lee doing a jutsu by himself. As Lee got in position, he removed the gravity seals, granting him access to his godly speed, as well as using a previous spell casted on his shadow, courtesy of Naruto. The henge was faked by the spell, that made him to look like the Hokage for 10 seconds, enough to pass, but short enough to not being noticed. When the turn of the Bushin came, he only moved fast enough to leave 2 clear after images, giving the illusion of being bushins. I didn't expect that. Okay, you pass. Is good to see that you were able to make jutsus, even if it was at the end. Okay Naruto, you are the last, don't let your friends go without you. Irika called for Naruto. He thought that there could not be anything else that could surprise him today. He was wrong. What Naruto performed, Irika called nightmare jutsus, because there was no possible way for a normal ninja to do that. The henge was performed with the help of the trench coat. It turned liquid, and enveloped Naruto as if it were eating him. Then it took the form of the Hokage. After bowing, the body turned orange, and returned to the original form of Naruto. It was freakish, and the bushins were almost as bad. Naruto's shadow expanded to the sides, and 2 bodies started to come out of it, as zombies that try to get out of a swamp. As the solid bodies got to their feet, they took Naruto's shape. Then both of them walked to Irika, who stepped back. Good enough, one of the bushins asked, while the other snickered. Why yes, why you pass, Irika replied, and then the bushins melted, and the black mass returned to Naruto's shadow, making him to look like a demon. Ahem, congratulations, you have passed, you are now ninjas of the leaf. Now come to the desk to get your Hitai 8, Irika gave his last instruction, thinking on the report that he has to deliver to the Hokage. Next morning, at the classroom, every graduated was excited, the groups will be formed, and the senseis will be assigned. Some, like Sakura, were cursing, because they were striped of the chance of being with the last Uchiha, who graduated last year. Others, like Kiba, were sending silent prayings to be in the same team with the beautiful Hinata. Reiko was sending prayings too, to be in the same team as Lee. She really wanted to put her hands on those big muscles. Unfortunately for them, the local god of war will not hear their prayers. I'm not Thor, or Baldur. Besides, I already have other plans, Lee thought. He wasn't sure why, but he was able to hear some of the silent prayers. Either they wanted the grace of the god of war, or were stupid enough to not name a god in their prayers. Okay, please pay attention. I will name the teams and their sensei. The teams have been selected to make them balanced, and their sensei has been selected to enhance the strengths of the members of the team. There will not be any changes. Understood, Irika stated, and as he got some nods, he started to name the teams. 6 teams were named, but it was until the 7th team that it became interesting. Team 7, Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga and Rock Lee. Your sensei will be Enko Mitarashi. The 3 genins nodded, but Reiko and Kiba cursed, for not being able to be with their crushes. Team 8, Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka and Sakura Haruno. Your sensei will be Kurenai Yuhi. Funeral bells sounded for Sakura. From all the weirdos, she had to be teamed with the worst of them. Kiba and Shino cursed their luck for being in the same team with the Banshee. Team 9, Niji, Tenten and Sasuke, is still out there under the wing of Kakashi Hatake, so Team 10, Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka and Chuji Akimichi, your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. Ino was grateful for being with the least weirdos of the class. She will work her way with them later. Team 11, Reiko Zanbolt, Matsuke's Maeda and Naraku. Your sensei will be Yamato. Said genins showed no emotion. At least the 3 of them know each other enough to work together. Well, that's all. You must wait here for your teachers. Good luck, and don't lack off. Irika gave his final instruction, feeling pity for some of the Jounins. This year some of the genins were more than enough to scare the Chunins. He had no idea of the colossal storm that was getting closer. Chapter 7. Treason. Another test, Ankaseth asked. Yup, this one courtesy of our new sensei, Enko Mitarashi, Naruto replied. At this, Ankaseth used one of his smiles. Oh May, I hope she won't be so harsh on any of you, my children. He was making a nice feast for his child, his soon-to-be daughter-in-law, and the reborn god. While it was pretty obvious that they were going to graduate, it was a nice coincidence that the 3 of them ended in the same team. Flashback. This is the list of graduates of this year. Irika showed the list to the Hokage, who wasn't surprised at all, and still, his face showed uneasiness. Thank you, Irika. I will handle the group forming. Sarutobi dismissed Irika, who felt that something was amiss. Is there something wrong, Hokage-sama? At Irika's concern, Sarutobi decided to let slip a little of his troubles. No, and yes, this year is going to be a little hard to make the teams, with the exception of the Ino Shikacho, who was decided long ago. Kurenai asked for the Hyuga to be in her tracking team. I have one young Zanbolt asking for this Rock Lee in her team. Haruno is asking for her granddaughter to be advanced and be placed with the Uchiha heir, and nobody want their children to be in the same team with Naruto. Sarutobi explained. Irika felt his blood boiling. How can people blame Naruto? He was the hero after all, but got no chance of made his mind verbal, because Hayashi entered the room. Sorry for coming like this, but since you are going to make the genin teams, I want to ask a special favor. Hayashi started. Both Irika and Sarutobi were ready to hear the same bullshit, but I want Hinata to be in the same team with the Uzumaki boy. Since Ankaseth-san is not a shinobi, and for hence, has no voice in this matter, I vote in his behalf too, for Naruto to be in the same team as my daughter. Hayashi voiced his request, and neither Irika or Sarutobi believed their ears. Hayashi-sama, Irika tried to say something, but was cut by Hayashi. Yes, I'm serious. Yes, I remember that Naruto is the vessel of the Kyuubi, and yes, I'm aware that the elders aren't going to like this, but I'll deal with them when the time comes, Hayashi said. Hayashi-sama, if Ankaseth is blackmailing you, Sarutobi interjected. True, the merchant was a kind-hearted man, harmless, and always had what you needed, but he didn't like how things were always favorable to him no matter what. But soon, he and Irika faced something that they will never forget. Hayashi's emotionless mask fell, and he looked sad. Hokage-sama, I had to see my daughter being sealed. I had to hear her screams of pure pain and despair. That day I swore to myself to grant her the happiness she deserved, the happiness I stole when I tried to force her into being the heir. I don't like the Uzumaki boy any more than the rest, but my daughter likes him, and I can't stand in the way of her happiness anymore. Please, I beg you. I don't want to see her with a broken heart just because she is not in the same team as the boy she loves," Hayashi explained with a broken voice, and Sarutobi didn't have other choice but to agree. After Hayashi left, Sarutobi closed his eyes. He was tired of this, so he chose the easy way, lifting the pen to randomly select the rest of the teams. "Oh well, I guess God will choose the rest." While he said this, a certain reborn god started to laugh like a madman. End of the flashback. "Well, at least, by the grace of God, you are all together, and you will stay like that," Ankaseth concluded, enjoying the pun. "Aye," Lee replied, and Naruto and Hinata giggled while leading the floating plates filled with food. One of them had a roasted boar, soaked in spices. "Dinner is ready," Hinata sang. A feast fitted for the gods. Oddly enough, it was easy to please the local god of war when you live with him. Meanwhile, Hyuga compound. "I find it quite strange that the Hokage didn't hear your pleas about separating your daughter from the demon kid," one of the elders expressed his concern. The day before the naming of the teams, Hayashi agreed to talk to the Hokage about the team prospects for his daughter. "I told him my concerns, and he said it was for the best," Hayashi replied. He wasn't lying, but neither was telling the truth. "At least she is being restrained in her room. We can't go against the Hokage in this, but we can restrict their time together as much as we can," another elder spoke. Hayashi made a mental note to purchase something cute for Hinata's double. She was a true blessing to both of them, but he couldn't help but to feel guilty for imprisoning the girl. "There is another thing, Hayashi. While it is acceptable to a Hyuga member to learn an alternate style besides the Juken, I have noticed that your daughter Hinata relays too much in that weapon," the head elder commented, but Hayashi didn't flinch. "A fine masterpiece, indeed. It seems that my daughter has found a new style on her sword, Masamune." Hayashi put special emphasis in the name of the legendary sword, and this got a massive gasp from the elders. "Why you can't be serious? The true masterpiece of the katanas, the blade of the one-winged angel of death?" one of the elders asked. Hayashi found quite amusing that the elder stuttered like his daughter used to do. "Yes, that same sword, and before you ask, it still belongs to the Uzumaki clan. Even if it's still a small family of 2 members, their resources are quite vast," Hayashi explained, and just as he predicted, greed flashed on the eyes of the elders. Now he needed to move carefully, or all the work to make Hinata happy will be wasted. "And, how can we make that sword a gift for our clan?" the head elder asked. "Yes, Hayashi will have to move with caution." Later that night, Hanabi wanted to take a walk, and as usual, she went in the company of her sister, Atani, as she named herself in order to not let Hayashi to know what she was. "I still don't understand what do you see in that blonde merchant, sister," Hanabi stated. Not only she was fooled too by Hinata's double, but also feels strange that her sister was attracted to someone that everyone else found unworthy. Unfortunately for her, this wasn't Hinata, so a blunt answer was in the way. "Well, is like the way you feel around the honorable grandson of the Hokage," Atani answered, enjoying the deep blush in Hanabi's face. How did you know?" Hanabi shouted. Her deepest secret was discovered by her sister. Atani wanted to laugh, and also to shout that every Hyuga is a pervert to heart, but before she could further tease Hanabi, her Mirage Byakugan detected an incoming attack. "Hanabi, watch out!" Atani shouted while throwing Hanabi to the ground, just to be stabbed by a giant shuriken. Hanabi was so shocked by the scene of the death of her sister, that she didn't notice that someone was getting closer. Then everything went black. A few minutes later, Mizuki was running at full speed through the forest outside Konoha. This was my lucky day. Not only I managed to get the forbidden scroll, but an extra treasure. Lord Orochimaru will be so pleased, that not only he will make me special jounin, but he may allow me to breed with this little slut," Mizuki expressed. This was his revenge, and he was so engrossed by his apparent success, that he didn't notice 2 facts. First, he was being followed, and second, he has passed the same tree for 3rd time, when he decided to stop to take a small rest. "Mizuki-sensei, what are you doing here?" Mizuki turned to face the owner of the voice, just to find Naruto, who had a wicked smile in his face. "Huh, Naruto, I'm in a classified mission, but what are you doing here at this hour? Shouldn't you be getting ready for tomorrow's test?" Mizuki asked, trying his best to hide his emotions. If things come to the worst, he will tell Naruto about the Kyuubi, then, in the confusion, he will kill the demon kid, scoring an extra trophy. "You are a bad liar. Now hand over my sister. Your filthy hands have touched her enough," Hinata said, walking out of the shadows. Mizuki let the scroll and Hanabi fall to the floor, breaking the henge on the little Hyuga. "No, it can't be. I killed you. I saw your guts sprawled all over the street. It wasn't a genjutsu. You are dead," Mizuki shouted, terror getting the best of him. It does not matter, now give up, and we'll allow you to walk on your own feet to the village, where you'll be judged as a traitor, Naruto stated, and this brought Mizuki back to his senses. Nice Genjutsu, I see you noticed that I killed your stupid girlfriend, so what? Want the other Hyuga now that the failure is dead? You may be good at Genjutsu, but I'm much more experienced ninja, now die, Mizuki shouted, while sending a barrage of kunais. As soon as he saw that Hinata used her blade to deflect all the kunais, he started to think, so, she is real, damn Hyugas, the one I killed was a double. As he thought this, he grabbed Hanabi again, to use her as hostage. Using my soon-to-be sister-in-law as a shield? You may think you are so smart, but that can be fixed, Naruto stated, not with coldness, but with an unnatural happy tone. Mizuki couldn't make sense of that, until the shadows below Naruto expanded. Not like the Nara secret jutsu, this shadows looked liquid, it separated and raised from the ground behind the blonde genin. What an amazing genjutsu, but this isn't an amateur fight, Kai. Mizuki tried to dispel the illusion before he was trapped, but it didn't dispelled, meaning that this was all real. Soon the separated shadows raised high, and the tips took the shape of fox heads, 9 fox heads. Suddenly they opened their eyes, several dozens of eyes on each head. They also opened their jaws, that were filled with irregular freakish tusks. Mizuki was so scared, that he didn't notice that Hanabi wasn't in his hands anymore. Naruto-kun, now that my sister is safe, can you pretty please, destroy that filthy bastard? Hinata shouted with an unholy rage that made Kyubi proud of her. As you wish, my dear, this bastard will never get up of this, Naruto stated, and Mizuki watched in horror how the 9 heads darted at him, with murderous intent. Meanwhile, are you sure you don't need a medic? Hayashi asked to Atani, who was currently gathering her innards from the street floor. No, Hayashi-sama, I don't need a medic, but some help could be useful. Can you kindly pick up my intestines? They are over there, and over there too, Atani asked. Being an homunculus had the benefit of not dying, but it was quite troublesome when your organs got spilled out of you. It amazed me, your Kekagen-kai is awesome. Still, I have no words to describe my gratitude. I think this is one of your lunges. Fortunately, her inability to die by ordinary means was confused by one of those strange bloodlines, making her able to blend with the crowds easier. Dad, Atani, here is Hanabi. Hinata arrived, unfazed by the gore. Thanks to God, now we can call the search to a stop. Who did kidnap her? Hayashi asked. It was Mizuki-sensei. Naruto-kun is dealing with him right now, Hinata calmly replied. What? Hayashi shouted, and this woke up Hanabi. Huh, Dad? Sister, Hanabi shouted, freaking out. Oh crap, both Hinata and her sin thought. 1 hour later. Naruto was still watching Mizuki, who was battered beyond words, still conscious, but his mind was already lost by the insane pain that he suffered at the hands of Naruto. He was covered in blood, he looked clawed and bited from every angle, bones were visibly broken, and his eyes looked lost. This sight was what the ANBU team reported back at the Hokage, who dismissed them, saying that he overlooked the fight with his crystal ball all the time, and it was a very powerful genjutsu, mixed with some physical attacks, and anything that Mizuki could say about it should be ignored. Naruto, what have you become? Sarutobi asked to no one in particular. He was amazed by the unspeakable power unleashed by the son of Minato, a power that Kyubi didn't had. He has become my son, and I'm very proud of him, a sweet male voice replied, and as Sarutobi turned to face the owner of the voice, his eyes grew wide as he recognized the speaker. Chapter 8. Tests and Titles. Team 7 was in the training ground that Anko told them to be, and as their sensei instructed, they've skipped breakfast. Lee had not much trouble right now, since he devoured an entire boar last night. Naruto and Hinata had a little more trouble since they passed a long time of the night awake, helping with the report of Mizuki's treason, as well as trying to explain the existence of Atani to Hanabi, so, they decided to wait in a more comfy stance. Oh well, might as well take seat, Naruto stated, while summoning a throne made of bones, with cushions of a strange color, as if they were blood-stained, and Naruto sat on it as if it were the most comfy seat of the world. Good thing I have the best seat of the village, Hinata squeaked while sitting in Naruto's lap, who hugged her. Lee decided to sit on a lotus stance, meditating in his past memories, remembering all the wars he had fought. Just as the Hokage said, these three are something else. That couple are resting on a summon furniture, while Muscle Boy is meditating. He looks tense, ready to fight. I wonder, Anko thought, while hiding on a tree. She was a special jounin, so she wouldn't test them on basic and stupid stuff. She will go hardcore on them, to see if they had what is needed for a death squad. The only thing that was stopping her was the warning of the Hokage. Flashback. Just before Anko could leave to the training grounds, the Hokage called her. The seriousness in his face was something that Anko didn't liked. Anko, I have to tell you something about the team you are about to test, Sarutobi started. Don't give me that. I know that I'm famous for going harsh on the very few students I had, but if you want to make a death squad like the one that was formed by Sanger Zonbolt, Hayashi Hyuga, and Mirai Sarayu, you have to make them do their everything, and be ready to be heartless beasts in the battlefield, Anko interjected, but the face that Sarutobi showed had another meaning. Anko, I'm not telling you to not being harsh on them, but I'm sure that if you push them too hard, I fear you may be facing something you won't be able to handle on your own, Sarutobi explained, while hiding the horrible facts he learned from the last visitor he had. You are giving them too much credit. Maybe they got Mizuki, but he was a loser, Anko snorted, but Sarutobi just shook his head. Just be careful, I don't want you to end like Mizuki, Sarutobi finished, and Anko departed to the training grounds. End of flashback. I must be careful, I don't want to end like Mizuki just for underestimating them, I don't want to shame myself in front of them after all. Okay, here I go, Anko gave a final thought before attacking. The fight was decided before starting it. Anko seemed to forget that Hinata was blessed with the Byakugan, but she wasn't the one who ended the fight. What Anko didn't notice was that the throne was actually alive. The dragon skulls that were in the arms of the chair became alive, and darted to intercept the Jounin. They battled with unholy rage. Suddenly, Anko found an opening, and darted towards Naruto, who ended her run with a shot from Kasol, turning Anko into a puff of smoke. That was a nice intro, Anko-sensei. Can you pretty please come out from the shadows? We are eager to pass your test, Naruto spoke in a sweet voice, just like his father, but unlike him, Naruto just scared everyone with that tone. Anko came out of her cover. For once, she was really grateful for sending a Kage Bunshin instead of going ahead herself. You really surprised me. How did you know it wasn't the real me? Is that a jutsu or a summon? Anko asked. She really needed to know. You mean my chair, is just that, a chair, custom-made, with some special inscriptions. As for you, I didn't sense your blood in that body. Naruto and Hinata stood up, and the throne returned to Naruto's shadow. Anko seemed to be satisfied with that answer. I see, he infused it with his chakra, really smart, but what did he meant about the blood? Anko thought, and then she said. Very well, I was thinking on making this test about survival, but I think we should do something more intense. I'll test each of you in combat. If you disappoint me, I'll send you back at the academy, Anko shouted, trying to scare them a little. Lee couldn't take it anymore. He was pissed off, and he was going to be heard as the god he is. Did you made us to skip breakfast for a simple battle? Lee asked, and not only Naruto and Hinata sweat dropped, Anko also felt the need to hide. Yes, Anko replied with a nervous smile. She was one of the very few that were able to stand against Orochimaru's killer intent, so, feeling fear for this boy was a bad sign. So, you made me skip my breakfast for your stupid test that only consists on a simple non-lethal battle? Lee roared, and Anko couldn't help but to back off. She only nodded. I'm going for something to eat, brother, sister, make sure to left some of her for me to fight with. She wanted a battle, she'll get war, Lee roared again, and left to search some unfortunate bear or boar. I need to find a way to imitate that killer intent. It was awesome. Oh well, I'll test you separately. Come here Hinata, let's see what can you do with that sword of yours, Anko commanded, and Hinata did as she was told. Anko soon found herself in the fastest battle of her life. In fact, she found extremely hard to notice Hinata's movement, almost as if she skipped the distances, and some movements. What in the world, is like I'm too slow and she's too fast, but she does not seem to be trying to accelerate at all, Anko thought. It seems that forming a death squad will be easier than she thought. Meanwhile, Team 11 was at the appointed site, and Yamato didn't make them wait. Okay, here is your test. In the deep of this forest is a guardian. He have 3 flowers in the head. Your mission is to get a flower each of you, without harming the guardian, Yamato stated, and the genins nodded. Okay, let's go. The sooner we finish this, the sooner we'll feel at ease, Reiko said. She didn't like the idea of being returned to the academy. She will not be able to face her father if that happens. Piece of cake, Matsuke shouted. He was very confident on passing a test so simple. Be aware, this is a test of wisdom, not of strength, otherwise we shouldn't be worried on not harm the guardian. When the time comes, let me do the talk, Naraku stated. He didn't have the strength that his companions had, but he was going to compensate it with his brain. Back with Anko? The battle ended, and while none of them was harmed, Anko was baffled. She managed to take notice on the difference of speed. I don't know how are you doing it, but you are making me going slower. While you rise your own speed, you are fighting at the speed of the Shushin, but no shinobi is capable of attacking at that speed. What is that, a new jutsu? Anko asked. It's magic, Hinata happily replied, and this confused Anko. I believe is my turn, isn't it? Naruto suddenly asked. Yes, but I already know your skills on genjutsu and in weaponry, and certainly I don't want to taste that weapon of yours, so we'll have a light taijutsu spar. You already passed when you caught Mizuki. I just want to know if I need to train you on basic taijutsu or not, Anko replied, voice full of sincerity. That's fine, don't get too harsh on me, Anko-sensei, Naruto said while handing, not only Kasol to Hinata, but his hat, sunglasses and coat as well. Anko soon found that Naruto's fighting style was not taijutsu, but something that was a breed between some kind of dance, flamenco, and using his hands like blades. I think that his hellish weapon is a way to lure the enemy into thinking that he is defenseless in close quarters. Very smart, Anko conceded. This was going to be the perfect death squad. Back with Team 11. The Genins were expecting to find an old jounin, or a retired warrior, someone that could be talked to, and get the test done. Instead of that, Mother Mercy, that's the second tallest wood golem I've seen on my life, Matsuke shouted, while evading one hammer fist. How are we supposed to get those damn flowers? Reiko shouted too. She was tempted on cutting the damn golem in many tiny parts, but the test was clear. Reiko, Matsuke's, remember, whatever happens, we must not attack the creature. Naraku remembered them the test conditions. Then what, we'll use coarse language, Matsuke's replied, frustration in his voice. Naraku was about to come out with a tactic, when everyone heard a loud roar, and a flying grizzly bear went towards the golem, knocking it out, and soon a very angry Rock Lee came out of the direction from where the bear came out. How you dare to interrupt my hunting, how you dare to scare away my food, now you will pay, now you will take the place that boar was destined to take, Lee shouted. Team 11 had a chance to see a massacre, of a poor bear being beaten to a pulp in front of their eyes. Well, Naraku was hearing instead of seeing it, but that didn't make it less scary. Also, Matsuke's had a chance of seeing Reiko drooling, and that wasn't good, not good at all. Back with Anko? The spar ended, and Anko was officially impressed. I can't believe it, you were using a clone all this time. How can you make a Kagebushin to withstand so many hits without dispelling? Anko asked. As soon as she called the battle to stop, the Naruto she was battling melted into a black mass that went to fuse with Naruto's shadow, who was cuddling with Hinata the whole time. That's because is not your normal Kagebushin, is a Yokai Bushin. It will not dispel until I say so. At Naruto's reply, Anko almost freaked. Yokai, but then, Anko stuttered, and Naruto had what can be considered a sadistic grin. Yes, Anko-sensei, I know everything about it. The question is, what do you know about it? Naruto replied. Now there was no doubt about it, that grin was sadistic, and the smile in Hinata lips was no better. Anko was about to reply, when a big bear fell in the middle of the clear. Here is the lunch. Now that I got it, I think it's just fair if someone helps me to remove the guts and fur, and then cook it into a nutritive meal, Lee stated. Naruto and Hinata nodded in agreement. This wasn't the first time they do this, and they certainly enjoyed it. As Lee stated before, it was a ritual before a war or a great battle. Anko gave a laugh at the sight, and that earned the attention of the overmuscled boy. Don't think I forgot, for I, Rock Lee, the god of war, will never turn my back to a battle, Lee shouted, eager to start a fist fight, and for once, Anko felt fear. Team 11 Judgment. Yamato was baffled. The conditions of his test were achieved, but under the most weird situation, his wood golem was knocked out cold by a third party, meaning that his genins didn't even touch it. They only took the flowers from the head, careful enough to not wake up the creature, meaning that they used their brain before their muscles, but it was disappointing that they had it easy. I guess you passed the test, but you are not high on my eyes. I'll have to train you extra hard from here on. You can't rely in dumb luck or divine intervention to fulfill your missions. Go home to rest. Tomorrow you'll start to train, Yamato stated, and then he left in a swirl of leaves. This is the fault of that brute, Matsuke suddenly shouted. He was frustrated, and needed to vent that frustration. He just chose the wrong subject. Smack. Ouch, why was that Reiko? Matsuke asked at the sudden aggression. It wasn't his fault. It's not like he punched that bear in the direction of the guardian in purpose, and don't call him brute again, Reiko shouted. In the last 2 years she has developed a crush on the reborn god. It seems that our fine sword girl is in love, Naraku suddenly stated. He didn't want to tease her, he just wanted to lift the uneasiness in the environment. What? And oh way, Reiko and that brute? Matsuke shouted, earning again the aggression of the Zonbolt girl. Smack. I told you, Reiko shouted. She didn't mind to be pointed on her crush. There was nothing wrong with that, and she was sure that Lee will pass the insane test that her father promised to anyone who wanted to have her. I think I'm going to have the hardest time of my life with the two of you, Naraku finally stated, while watching his companions to keep arguing about the reborn god and his ways. The judgment of Team 7. Anko was showing a black eye on her face. she thought many things about Lee, but right now, she found his self-given title very fitting. He fought with unholy rage, he showed no mercy, no remorse, and no fear, his fist wielded an uncanny strength, and his body showed to be unbreakable. Proof of that was the fact that any kunai that Anko threw at him was unable to even scratch him. Suddenly, she grinned. They passed before the test started, so she decided to give them titles, just as Lee showed, something to inspire fear on their foes. Okay, first, I want to congratulate you, you passed the test, and now, as an initiation rite, I'll give you some titles that you should speak whenever you fight, Anko started. There is no need to give another title to you, Lee, the god of war is very fitting. Still, you have to tell me, how did you learn the Kami no Yoroi? I thought that jutsu was lost on the first Shinobi War. Hinata, I name you the Aurora Angel, the way you shine with so many colors while moving at those speeds make it very fitting. Naruto, I name you the Yokai King, you may not look royal right now, but the way you use your scary magic, and how you like to sit on that satanic throne, make you very fitting for that name, Anko stated. Fortunately for her, the genins agreed to their new names. Soon after this, they began to eat the cooked bear, Anko included. They were a team now, better to start acting like one. Chapter 9. Dead Uprising, First Part. At the Hokage Tower, Teams 7 and 11 were reunited, wearing their hitayatesh proudly. Naruto was wearing it tied to his left arm, Hinata was wearing it around her neck, Lee had it as a belt, Matsuke's and Reiko were wearing them in a more traditional fashion, in their foreheads, while Naraku was using it to cover his eyes. They were about to receive their first mission. All the other teams have already left with missions related to mundane tasks and boring assignments, so they didn't have high hopes on getting something good, thing that was even more obvious due to the fact that this was their very first mission. What they didn't knew is that their fate was sealed the night before they were tested as a team. Flashback. Naruto, what have you become? Sarutobi asked to no one in particular. He was amazed by the unspeakable power unleashed by the son of Minato, a power that Kyuubi didn't had. He has become my son, and I'm very proud of him, a sweet male voice replied, and as Sarutobi turned to face the owner of the voice, his eyes grew wide as he recognized the speaker. Ankaseth-san, how did you enter? Sarutobi asked. Somehow he felt very insecure in front of the merchant. Maybe it was the fact that outside the office were over 20 ANBU ninjas, or maybe the fact that neither the windows or the door were even slightly open, or maybe the fact that he, being the Hokage, didn't notice the merchant entering his domains. That's a very interesting question, Hokage-sama, but there is no time to explain something that will explain itself in a few moments. Right now, I'm here to ask a request, Ankaseth started. Right now, any feeling of uneasiness was multiplied way too much. And what is this request about? I'm guessing you don't want to change Naruto's team, do you? Sarutobi asked. Something was wrong, very wrong. I just want to give an interesting and educative first mission to my son, Ankaseth replied with a foxy grin. What kind of mission? Sarutobi asked. Interesting and educative weren't D-rank missions, so, this merchant wanted something entirely different. Nothing special or dangerous. One client of mine lives in a little town called Cheddar, just a week from here. You know that place, nothing never happens there. This client wants this little and inoffensive package, so, I was thinking, why not to let my son and his team to deliver this little and inoffensive package to a small and peaceful town. I mean, a chosen hero, a reborn god, and chosen princess can get bored by just doing mundane tasks, don't you agree? Ankaseth explained. Sarutobi was about to have a heart attack. The chosen hero and princess, and the reborn god, from all the times for old prophesies to become true, why it had to be during his days as a Hokage. He was about to ask this when Ankaseth vanished in front of his eyes, no chakra spike to be felt, as if he never stepped inside the office. The only evidence of this event was the small package. End of flashback. Might as well send both teams, just in case, Sarutobi thought, while eyeing them intently, and this made Anko explode. Argh. Just hand over the mission already. What is it? Painting a fence, purchasing groceries, taking care of troublesome children, catching that devil cat? Anko shouted, and this made Yamato to chuckle, while the genin sweat dropped. This also returned Sarutobi to the current situation. No, nothing like that. In fact, I have a special mission for both teams. Here, take the info, and handle this package with utmost care, Sarutobi said, while handling the information and the small package to the Jounins. Deliver the package to a man named Alexander Anderson, in the town of Cheddar. That's 1 week of travel. Yamato expressed the contents of the information. Cheddar, that's the most boring place of Earth, Anko added. She felt that this was almost as bad as a D-rank mission. Excuse me, but going out of the village isn't considered as a C-rank mission, Naraku asked, a little confused for the sudden importance of the mission. It has to be, is too far away from any backup, Reiko replied, already getting excited for getting a great mission. Great, our first mission is overranked, we'll be the envy of the rest of the teams, Matsuke shouted. All of them seemed to forgot what Anko said. Can I ask who is asking for this mission? Naruto suddenly asked, with a sweet and polite voice that sent shivers through Anko's spine. Let me see, hey, it's Naruto's father, the one who asked for this mission. No wonder the Hokage is accepting to give it to you, being only a genin. Besides, the only danger lies in the forest. Once we hit the road to Cheddar, is almost an accomplished mission, Yamato stated. However, instead of getting another shout from Anko, he watched in distress how a dangerous smirk appeared not only in Anko's face, but in her genins too. I know is an easy mission, however, I want you to take this chance to teach your students how to treat C-rank missions, and remember to make good use of the time to polish your skills in stealth and survival. Now, you are dismissed, go and get ready to leave in the morning, the Hokage commanded, and both teams left, leaving the Hokage to think in how to approach the merchant, in order to clarify how he knew about the old legends, and to purchase some herbs to smoke. Konoha's main gate, next morning. Yamato had instructed his genins to pack everything they considered necessary for a medium to long trip, and he saw the result of his words in the big backpacks the kids brought. Reiko's backpack was slim and small. Yamato knew that any Zanbolt will simply refuse to seal their things in scrolls, and that they lived basically from their swords, meaning that what she packaged were mostly sharpening tools and spare clothes. Naruto's backpack was a sack, containing mostly healing items, and some food. Yamato was still amazed on how he was able to identify everything with ease, despite being blind. However, Matsuke's backpack was way too big, and looked awkwardly heavy, and it was hard to tell what could he have there. Soon after checking his team, Yamato noticed Team 7 getting closer, and he took notice of the genins. Naruto was not carrying any kind of backpack, and he doubted that this genin could already know how to seal things in scrolls, which he also didn't saw on him. Hinata was carrying a very small pouch, tied in her belt, and by the shape it was taking, it looked like small bottles, either with medicinal remedies, or poisons. But Lee, the only difference was that he was wearing a great mantle, made of the fur of some bears. It was the only animal that Yamato thought that could have enough fur for that kind of mantle, giving him a scary look. Your team looks ill-prepared for this trip, Anko, Yamato stated. It was hard to tell if he was all business, or if he was teasing Anko. Yours looks overcharged, Greenie, Anko replied, mockery at its best. You can't blame the kids, they wanted to be ready for everything, Yamato defended, getting angry. A good shinobi can live from the ground, carrying too much will slow you down, especially oversized weapon users. They should not carry anything else, Anko shot back. She looked really happy for teasing the wood user. Meanwhile the genins were having their own chat, where Naruto and Hinata were busy in a flattery contest, with kisses in between. Naruto was pointing how Reiko drooled in front of her crush, while Matsuke's was making plans to get Reiko to look at someone else, namely him, when they watched how Lee was getting closer to Reiko, who became nervous upon this realization. Reiko, can I have a word with you? Lee asked, with a strong yet polite voice. Sure, Reiko replied with trouble. Can you stop drooling? It's disgusting, Lee said with not much emotion in his voice, and Reiko got petrified. Tears were menacing with getting out like rivers, when. Besides, it ruins your beautiful face, Lee continued, and then turned to walk to his companions. Reiko's heart skipped a beat, or two. Did he call me beautiful? She finally snapped, and almost jumped in joy. After a few minutes of watching the verbal fight between their senseis, they departed, and since there was no danger in this mission, a bet was made. The sensei of the team who fared worst this trip will pay for the party at their return. This was a serious bet. Both teams have people that eats like there is no tomorrow, making this a hard contest, and at noon, they had their first test of survival, getting something to eat. Okay, go and get some food, and remember, we have to remain hidden, from the gathering to the eating, Yamato instructed, and turned to watch how Anko managed this. Lee, go and hunt whatever you want, I'll skin it, and Hinata and Naruto will cook it, Anko stated, and Lee darted into the depths of the forest. This brought Yamato's attention. Anko, are you abusing that we are still in homeland? Remember that there could be dangerous animals or bandits, even some enemy ninjas. You can't allow that over-muscled boy to wander alone, Yamato lectured, and Anko looked at him as if he were some kind of alien. I seriously doubt that there is something more dangerous than him out there, Anko replied, and soon they heard the sound of a dying animal. I'll start the fire, Hinata-chan. Can you kindly make some of that delicious sauce that only you know how to make? Naruto begged, and Hinata giggled. Of course, my dear Naruto-kun, besides, I love how you lick it from my fingers, Hinata replied, seriously turning on the other males in the nearby Aren't they too young for that? Yamato asked, a little startled by the display of affection. If I remember properly, you were very pervert at a younger age, Anko replied, making fun of the wood user, again. After 1 hour, both teams were eating. Yamato instructed his genins to eat atop a tree, eating fruits and cold foods, this in order to keep the stealth, but this lesson was being corrupted by Anko's team. They were at the floor of the forest, feasting in a fat boar that Lee caught, that Anko cleaned, that Hinata and Naruto cooked. The fine yet strong smell of the cooked meat was an inhuman torture for Team 11. Even Yamato's mouth was all wet, but he decided to show strong, and closed his eyes. To add a dramatic effect to his lecturing. As you can see, Team 7 is being careless. During a mission, is vital to keep secrecy, to remain hidden. By cooking meat like that, you only attract unwanted attention, like bandits and wild beasts, and if other ninjas were in the nearby, Team 7 will be dead by now. Yamato finished his lecturing, just to find that he was alone. His team went to join Team 7 into the feast, and upon seeing them enjoying the meat with utmost pleasure, he fell to the whims of his stomach. Wait for me, he shouted while jumping to join the others. Outskirts of Cheddar, 1 week later. A blonde girl was running through the forest, her weapon, an old katana strapped to her waist. Her mission, to get help from any source available. The reason, some kind of evil people came to her peaceful town, and started to kill the good people, people that she knew, that she loved, and that loved her. But the worst part was that the people that was killed didn't stay dead for long. They raised, and started to attack other people. This invasion of the dead destroyed the town in only 1 day, and the few survivors were being protected in the small church. Somehow the priest managed to repel the abominations, but he wasn't a fighter. He won't last for long. That's why she decided to take the risk to go outside and call for help, but as usual, she found resistance. No, stay away, please, don't you remember who am I? It's me, the kitty. The girl tried to reason with the man in front of her. He was one of her best friends, one of those that were a good choice to marry with, but it was useless. The only answer she got were the hungry moanings of who used to be one of her best friends, and soon, more in this condition answered the moanings in the distance. It was a matter of time before she finds herself surrounded by the undead. She had to act fast, to decapitate this undead just as the priest told her to do, but she hesitated. She found herself unable to kill him. The full moon shined with a bloody red tint over her like a bad omen, as if her own end were close, until a white-gloved hand bursted out of the chest of the undead, and as if that were the most deadly attack, the zombie became ashes. Once this happened, she was able to see her savior, a young boy dressed in an orange trench coat, with wide-brim hat that matched his coat, and his eyes shined like 2 orange round orbs. She barely missed those who were at the sides of her rescuer. Who are you? The girl asked, and her rescuer, as well as his 2 companions grinned in a scary way. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, the yokai king. To my right is Hinata, the aurora angel, and to my left is Rock Lee, the god of war, and we are here on a mission. Naruto introduced himself and his team. A beautiful night, isn't it? Naruto concluded, while the Jounins and Team 11 raced to join them. Chapter 10. Dead Uprising, Part 2. A beautiful night? A beautiful night? My people is under attack by the undead. There is no beauty on that, the blonde girl shouted, angry at the words of her rescuer. That's very rude. You shouldn't have saved such an imprudent girl, my dear Naruto, Hinata replied, disgusted at the rude girl, whose sweat dropped at the remark. At least speak your name, Midgardian, and why were you chased by the living dead? Lee asked, with a hardened look in his face. What is a Midgardian? The girl asked, and just then, the rest of the team arrived. Okay kids, stop harassing the girl, and next time don't let us handle alone the bad guys, okay? Anko playfully reprimanded them. Yeah, we wanted to see you in action, Reiko added, mostly looking at Lee. Maybe they wanted to have another tent party adding this girl to the fun, Yamato teased, still angry for not sleeping at all, knowing that Naruto and Hinata shared the same tent for 1 week. Or maybe they are cowards, Matsuke said, but regretted it when Lee turned to face him with an extremely unfriendly face. Next time you want to call them cowards, tell me. I don't want to be near you when they get bloody ballistic on you, Naraku whispered to Matsuke's, who was currently sweating bullets. Aside all of this, who are you and what is happening here? Anko asked to the blonde girl, who quickly stood up. Sorry, my name is Sarah's, and I don't know exactly what is happening here, but many dead people have raised from their tombs, and started to attack the living ones. To make it worse, those who are attacked are becoming undead too. The few survivors are taking sanctuary at the church, where the Father Anderson is keeping them safe with his holy words, but he is getting tired, he won't last long, that's why I decided to go for help. You are fighters, right? The way you killed that undead, you can help us, you must help us, we'll do whatever, I'll do whatever, just to save Father Anderson and the few survivors, please, Sarah's pleaded, and while a somber face was shown on Team 11, Team 7 showed a disturbing grin. I see, so, to complete our mission, we must pass through a sea of undead creatures? Sounds fun, Anko playfully said, earning the stare of Yamato. Anko, our teams aren't ready for this, we must go back to Konoha and get reinforcements. Besides, this has become a B-rank mission, Yamato shouted. It was his duty to be the voice of reason. Are you serious? It took us 1 week to get here, and you want to abandon these people just because you, being a jounin, feel unable to handle this while babysitting your genins? Anko teased, with a hint of seriousness in her voice. Anko, maybe the two of us alone will be able to do this job, but our genins haven't even completed a single D-rank mission. Do you really expect them to survive this? Yamato replied, in a last attempt to reasoning with the snake lady, who turned to face her genins. The choice is yours. Shall we keep forward and face the enemy in a bloody battle, just to complete our silly mission, or shall we play safe, returning to Konoha, and ask someone else, more capable than you, to do this job, under this blood-full moon? Answer me, genins of Konoha. Anko said this with an overdramatic voice that sent chills to the spines of Team 11, Yamato included. The Pact of the Blood Moon, I can't believe that the Hokage put them together for this, Yamato thought, while Sarah's looked at them with a pleading face, as if screaming that they were the ones to save her people, and soon, the members of Team 7 grinned like true bloodthirsty demons. Indeed, a night like this makes one to have a bite to drink. The Yokai King will make a bloodbath of this night, Naruto said, as if he truly wanted to feast in the blood of his enemies. My blade will bring pace to the dead, and hope to living. The Aurora Angel will shine with the light of truth, Hinata shouted, with the conviction of a holy crusader. The pleas of this Midgardian girl have not fallen on deaf ears. The god of war will not be stopped, Lee shouted with enough power to make Team 11 back off. It is done. Under this blood moon, the Konoha's death squad has born. Now forward. We will not stop until every one of our enemies is dead, Anko shouted as if she was possessed, while she, her team, and the blonde girl darted toward the town. Stupid Anko, nice moment to going nuts, Yamato shouted in frustration. What are we going to do, sensei? They will need support. Besides, my teammates are lusting for battle, Naraku asked, while Reiko and Matsuke's sweat dropped. It wasn't a lie, but it was obvious that he was using that as an excuse to go into the battlefield. You are right, Naraku, they will need our help, but you must be very careful. This is no longer child's play. If you get injured, I'll have to kill you. Understood, Yamato said, with a deadly serious tone, but his genins didn't flinch, and soon they ran after Team 7. Front of Cheddar's church, a few minutes later. The Church of Cheddar was a big and beautiful building, built like a Western temple of one of the almost forgotten faiths. Its front doors were made of hard and heavy wood, making them difficult to break, but under the pressure of hundreds of undead, it will be only a matter of minutes, and then, the entire town will be eradicated. Damn it, there are so many. How are we supposed to save the church from those monsters? Yamato asked. He was expecting no more than a few dozens. Anko and Naraku were about to voice some advice, when... Ghouls, these are ghouls, the lowest ranked of the undead, even lower than a zombie. We don't have to destroy them all, just prevent them to enter the church until dawn, Naruto said, sharing the arcane knowledge that he learned from both his father and Kyuubi, and this earned a lot of stares. True, no one has even been attacked under the sunlight, Sarah's replied. That's because the sunlight will destroy them, but, how can you difference a zombie from a ghoul? Anko asked. She knew something about these creatures, but how to tell them apart was beyond her knowledge. Because a ghoul will follow the orders of its master. These monsters are attacking the doors of the church. A zombie wouldn't do that. Also, there seems to be a holy barrier in these doors, and only a ghoul would be affected by it. Of course, this also means that there is either a vampire nearby or a necromancer, Naruto explained, and Yamato paled at this. Okay, Anko, it was fun until now. This has jumped directly into an A-rank mission. We are retreating now, before these things try to eat us, or their master appears, Yamato stated, almost like an order, but before Anko could argue, Hinata interjected. Too late for that, here they come. At Hinata's shout, everyone jumped into a fighting stance, but the ghouls moved way too slow, making the wait very tiresome. To the war, Lee suddenly shouted, and darted to intercept the undead, and was followed by Naruto and Hinata. Wait for me, I want to have fun too, Anko shouted, while following them. Great, Naraku, take the lead, and protect Sarah's. I'll go to save that bunch of weirdos, Yamato said to his genins, who surrounded the blonde girl. Sarah's, we'll protect you, so, don't try to attack on your own, Naraku said to the girl, who made a nervous smile. Sure, don't worry about that, I don't even know how to use this old blade, haha, Sarah stated, and Team 11 sweat dropped. This was going to be a little more harder than they thought. Yamato thought that he will barely arrive in time to save the reckless Team 7, but as he watched their fight, he started to doubt that they were genins, or ninjas at all. Naruto just flashed his gun, and with a loud bang, Yamato watched how a line of at least 6 ghouls turned into ashes. Yamato even thought on getting one of those weapons of his own. Loud, yes, but freaking effective. Hinata, for her part, just started to shine with multitude of colors, like her nickname, and with a speed never seen before, she slashed her way through the undead army. Then Yamato turned to see Lee, who was surrounded by the undead, fighting with his bare hands. "Lee, hold on, I'm going to help you," Yamato shouted, just to hear Lee's warcry. "Volcano strike," Lee shouted while connecting the most brutal uppercut ever seen, and upon contact, flames consumed the ghoul to ashes, and all the surrounding foes burned to a crisp too, in a sea of flames, just like a raging volcano. "What the hell, that wasn't a katan, what the fuck was that?" Yamato shouted in awe and fear, unable to digest the sight of the mother of all the fire jutsus. He was so awestruck that he didn't notice the ghoul that was getting closer from behind of him, until a kunai with an explosive tag flew past him, blowing up the undead foe. "You should be more careful, Greenie," Anko said, returning Yamato back to reality. "Thanks, I guess. What are you teaching them? I've never seen jutsus like those," Yamato asked. He wondered where they learned such freaking skills. "That's none of your business, you should focus on your genins instead," Anko replied, and Yamato nodded. "I goose they can take care of this themselves. I better check up my kids," Yamato thought, and then darted to aid his genins. Team 11, while not as destructive as Team 7, was faring very good on their own. Naraku was shooting arrows, while using on them his own version of the shadow weapon replication, making every one of his arrows to count for more than 10, and to add more power to his attack, each arrow carried an explosive tag, ensuring the annihilation of any ghoul they touched. Matsuke's showed total mastery of his zanbato, ensuring the decapitation of every foe in his range of attack. Of course, every time he moved his blade, he shouted a powerful battle cry, trying to instill fear in his foes. Reiko was making a true show of mad swordplay skill. Every swing, every stab, was rewarded with a shower of guts and ashes. It was her dance, her moment, just as her father taught her. Kaiya. Team 11 turned at the source of the scream. Somehow, Sarah's got herself surrounded by the undead. She was too sacred to even unsheathing the katana she had in her hands. She was about to abandon every hope until she heard a battle cry. Reiko Giri. In the blink of the eye, Reiko was already at her side, resheathing her katana, while every ghoul in an insane radius was falling into little pieces, showing only clean and perfect cuts. "Are you okay?" Reiko asked, and Sarah's only nodded, looking at her as if she wasn't human. After a few more minutes, the battle ended. They didn't have to wait for the sun, since Team 7 did most of the killing, and still, Team 11 showed signs of exhaustion, and now the entire group was about to knock on the church doors, ready to greet the surviving town people, when a voice stopped them, forcing them to look back. "How you dare! Those you destroyed were the servants of Master Valentine, and now, in his name, I will destroy you." The voice was owned by a ninja. He was dressed in a red suit with white web patterns. He was wearing a mask, and his hitayate was showing that he was from IWA. However, the dark purplish tint in his skin, as well as the bright red eyes, pointed him as not human. Both teams were about to take a fighting stance again, when the church doors suddenly opened with brutal force, and a swirl of paper sheets emanated from inside, and a voice full of authority boomed. "You will not be gone, abomination. In the name of the one God, I exile you to oblivion," the priest shouted, and a ray of pure light struck the IWA ninja, turning him into dust. The Jounins and their genins turned to see the priest, a 7 feet tall blond man, who looked around his late 30s. He was wearing small glasses, and a little scar was in his cheek. "Thank you, to all of you, for aiding us in our moment of distress." "It can't be," the priest shouted, while pointing at Naruto, and then blacked out, falling to the floor with a loud thud. "Father Anderson," Ciara screamed while running to the side of the priest. "Well, at least the work is done. We can go home now," Yamato stated, relieved as he saw the sun rising in the horizon. "No, is not over yet," Naruto suddenly stated, while a sadistic grin crawled not only in his face, but in the faces of his team too. "What are you talking about? The vampire ninja is already dead," Matsuke shouted, begging that this genin were only crazy. "Naruto is right, that IWA ninja mentioned a Master Valentine. It means that this battle is going to get worse," Anko replied, showing that at least she paid attention to what happened. "We'll need to eat well for the battle to come," Lee said, and before anyone could face fault or sweat drop, their stomachs growled in unison. "I guess we have to make good use of the daylight," Hinata stated, not really worried. You are right, we have to make good tactic for this kind of foe, Naruto replied, already starting to devise a plan. Meanwhile, in the Major's mansion, two men were sitting at the table with cups filled with blood, drinking as if it were wine. It seems that some powerful bastards have come to ruin our party, brother, one of the men, who had his face filled with piercings, said. Yes, you are quite right, but it will benefit us. If we can take the blood of these powerful pests, we'll achieve our goal much more faster. The other, a man with a long blonde hair and a white tuxedo, replied, and then, both bursted in laughter, while toasting for their insane dreams. Chapter 11. Dead Uprising, Part 3. It was noon already and the Father Anderson, since his awakening from his sudden shock, has been eyeing Naruto, who, as a way of respect, took off his hat and his shades, allowing everyone to see his warm smile and happy features, thing that made Anderson to dismiss him as the reincarnation of the abomination he used to know some time ago. However, he didn't let his guard down, for he sensed that this child has both a soul of greater good, as well as a soul of greater evil. The Father Anderson also gave the proper thanks to the shinobis, they were their saviors, but the presences of Anko and Lee were very disturbing, Anko for her very indecent shirt and skirt, and the young boy for his tattoos and his attitude. He walked and talked as if he were worthy the title of a god, thing that was a blasphemy to the priest, however, since he didn't say or did anything that showed disrespect to the one god. At least not inside the church, he was tolerated, the others were. Only strange to behold, is not every day that you see a blind boy to coordinate in strategy, showing a sharp vision of the situation, or a girl with lavender eyes humming something happy in the middle of a crisis like this, as if for her, the time and space were a realm without importance. Indeed, so different from what used to be back home, Anderson sighed, and this earned the attention of Yamato. Back home, from where are you exactly, Father Anderson? Yamato asked with as much respect as possible. There was no need to start a war of faiths right now. Huh? From the far west, Anderson replied somewhat startled, since he didn't notice the wood user until he spoke. From the far west? That's strange, the people from those lands are very strong, and while you look strong, you weren't able to fight in a more open way. Are you sick? Yamato asked. He was counting in the holy barriers of the priest to mount a strong defense for the incoming assault. He is broken, Matsuke suddenly stated, with certain disgust. Broken? Yamato asked, ready to reprimand his genin if he disrespect the priest too much, but got surprised when the priest lowered his head on shame. He has no will to fight, or to survive, and faith alone is not enough to save this town, for I know no god that will favor the cowards. Matsuke raised his voice, when smack. Reiko-chan, why? Matsuke shouted in pain and surprise at the violent reaction of the young Zonbolt. Watch your tongue, Maeda. Overall show respect and tolerance to any faith you encounter, and do not mistake the pain of the heart with weakness or cowardice. Now apologize to the holy priest of the one God, and offer a prayer at the altar, Reiko said in a very commanding voice that brought a warm and happy memory to the priest. Flashback. Why do I have to team up with the abomination? Anderson shouted, disgusted by the idea of working along a vampire. Pope orders, Iscariot and Helsing must work together to overcome the current crisis, Maxwell answered without much interest. But this is blasphemy, Anderson shouted again, looking with enraged eyes to the crimson-dressed man. Now, Judas Priest, you know that you want it, that you want us to go there alone, to be alone so you can backstab me as the saint of your devotion, mwahahahahaha, Alucard stated with a creepy and sadistic voice, rejoicing in his own evilness, until bang, bang, bang. Ow, master, Alucard mockingly whimpered, while healing the 3 holes in his head. Shut up, tool, you will do as you are ordered, and I order you to apologize now. This mission is way too important for you to fool around. If you don't work together there will be no tomorrow for you to have another of your senseless and bloody fights, Integra said with a commanding voice that sent shivers through Anderson's spine, something he liked, and that he'll miss, for this was the last time he would see them. End of flashback. It seems that, in the end, I have found every one of the people that were important to me, at least in this land they are less bloody, Anderson thought, while making a very little smile, and suddenly, Naruto and Hinata appeared in front of him. Father Anderson, we are about to go outside to start our strategy, but I don't want to go without giving you this, the package you ordered, Naruto said with a foxy grin, while handling the small package to the priest. I see, before you go, allow me to bless you, is the least I can do for you, Anderson replied, and after mumbling a short bless, he allowed them to go. After seeing them depart, he looked at the small package with a curious expression in his face. Strange, I don't remember to have ordered anything, Anderson muttered. As the sunset approached, the people inside the church was getting busier and busier, the jounins and genins were gathering things for a barricade, and makeshift weapons, torches, water, and food, ready to make a bunker of the old building. I hope this works. These civilians have no knowledge on how to fight, Yamato stated, really worried for the safety of the people. I still think that we should attack the enemy heads-on, Anko replied, wishing to have gone with Naruto and Hinata, who were in charge of setting up a trap to decimate the numbers of the enemies, in order to lessen the damage on the building. Anko, don't be suicidal, these aren't humans, we don't know their strength. Yamato tried to reprimand her, but failed miserably. You don't know what you are fighting. I perfectly understand our situation. The undead are both strong and weak, normal methods of fighting are useless, but some other things like holy objects or blessed elements turn them to ashes, even if it won't cause a scratch on you. Besides, the living and the undead share a common weakness, Anko explained, and Yamato couldn't help but to feel amazed at the knowledge of the crazy snake lady. And what is this common weakness? Yamato asked, filled with interest. Decapitation and destroying the heart proves to be lethal, Anko replied with a grin, while Yamato looked at her as if she were crazy. As the sun finally hides its light behind the mountains, the Valentine brothers start to walk in the streets of the town, followed by a large group of vampire ninjas, making their way to the church, where the last living ones were taking shelter. For them, it was like walking to a fridge, with the exception that this time there were some snacks that were going to try to fight back. Hey Luke, I wonder if there will be some girls with the pests. If there are, let me rape them. I want some rough action, the one with the face filled with piercings shouted. Sure Jan, but remember, if you see a young virgin, save her for me. I could add another good fighter to my selected bodyguards, Luke replied, while looking at the 4 barely dressed kunoichis that were following him very closely. Suddenly, Luke stopped, with an startled face, and looked towards the town square. Something wrong, brother? Jan asked, not really caring. He was more focused in imagining what kind of women he will find in the church. It seems that one of the pests is preparing a pincer, but this pest is not hiding his chakra, is like a flame drawing moths, Luke replied, while smiling at the idea of facing someone that strong. What do you propose? Going for that one first? Jan asked, while grinning. He just wanted to spill someone's blood already. No, Jan, I'll personally go to greet this one. I'll let the church to you. Have fun, brother, Luke replied, and started to go towards the town square, followed by his 4 kunoichis. In the church, everything was ready. All the kids and women were taken to the basement, while the few men capable of fighting were armed with makeshift weapons and flasks with holy water, all of them prying that the shinobis were enough to stop the monsters. Reiko took the chance to cover her sword with holy water, thing that Naruto copied by spraying some holy water in his bow. Yamato and Anko were making lots of explosive tags, and Matsuke's filled a small gourd with blessed wine. The father, Anderson, could have reprimanded him, if not for the fact that, if the water runs out, the wine could be used as a less powerful alternative. Are you sure it was a good idea to send these 2 outside? Yamato asked, worried for Naruto and Hinata. You should not doubt them, they will pull out a victory, they have the blessings of 2 gods, Lee replied, and this puzzled the wood user, but before he could further ask, they heard the blind genin. Here they come, get ready, Naruto shouted, and the shinobis darted outside. Meanwhile, Luke was walking to the town square, that was just a few more meters in front of him. He was being lured to this dark presence. He was walking calmly, knowing that there could not be any surprise attack that could bypass his bodyguards. Their footsteps were a calming music for him, and suddenly, the music stopped, and he did as well. His face was of pure shock. He didn't had to turn around to be sure about it. He was alone, and suddenly, he laughed. So, you are that good, to have trapped me in a genjutsu of this magnitude, but it matters not. Your blood will be mine, Luke shouted, and kept walking, and soon he found himself looking to a short man sitting in a throne. So, are you the one behind this senseless attack? Naruto asked, and this shocked the vampire. A kid, a mere kid, is the owner of this demonic presence? Luke asked. You'll see, Mr. Valentine, in this world, as well as many others, the power is given to the worthy ones, being they men or women, young or old, good or evil, willing or unwilling. It all depends on the balance of the universe, but the question is, why do you seek a dark power like this? Weren't your money, your women, and your political position enough for you? Naruto asked with a mocking voice. He took his time to make a little research on the Valentine family. Shut up, what do you know anyway? What good it makes me to have all the material things if I can't live forever to enjoy them? What good it does to me to have all these women if I'm going to get old and won't be able to enjoy them anymore? But now, I'm a vampire, I'm immortal, and I'll be young forever to take the pleasure I deserve, Luke explained, and this sickened Naruto, but decided to keep the charade. Luke, there is nothing like immortality, or being eternally young. In the end, you'll become old, and unable to be pleased, not mattering how young your body looks, and, you are already dead, so, no immortality for you, Naruto explained, and Luke looked both shocked and angry. How did you know my name? No, it does not matter, soon my brother will end what we started, soon that church will be burned to a crisp, and then, we'll be able to turn this entire town in our den, from where we'll start our domain of terror, and everyone will knelt before us, Luke said, with a hint of madness in his voice. So sad, at least I hope you can put a decent fight, Naruto said with a happy voice that sent chills through Luke's spine, who decided to finish this quickly, so, he dashed towards Naruto, and soon pointed a wooden-covered gun at Naruto's head. It's over, kiddo, he calmly said, until he noticed something against his chest. Naruto had Kasul pointing at his heart. "Fuck," Luke managed to shout. Bang, bang. The gunshots alerted Luke's bodyguards, who were currently facing a very young girl. Under normal circumstances, they will not be worried at all, but these were not normal circumstances. There were 2 gunshots, and their master never used more than 1 shot per enemy, and to make it worse, this girl, alone, has blocked the attacks from the 4 of them, a feat that no human or vampire is capable of. What's wrong? Afraid of a little girl? Hinata mocked, and this enraged the vampire Kunoichis, who grinned, and then leaped at her. Hinata was blocking exactly as she'd done before, and the vampires used this as an advantage, forcing her to block the attack of 2 of them, and when she repelled them the other 2 attacked from below, stabbing her heart and lunges with their swords, making the lavender-eyed girl to cough blood and going still. Meanwhile, at the church. The battle outside the church was a bloody one. Yamato was using his Mokuton to impale as many vampires as he could, having little success, for they were way too fast for a normal human to fight. However, he kept this strategy, for it was the safest one possible. Anko stayed at his side, using kunais with explosive tags to kill those that were getting close enough, or were too busy evading the murderous roots to notice her kunais. They were a little ashamed, for their genins were faring quite well. Riya aim. It was Nariku's battle cry. He shouted this while shooting 1 arrow to a group of ninjas. They could have laughed at it, if not for the fact that a single arrow became a massive barrage of explosive arrows that effectively rained over them in an unavoidable explosive doom. This technique was rewarded with a shower of guts and small body parts that once belonged to the vampire ninjas. Katan, Nensho Yaiba. Matsuke shouted with a barbaric strength, covering his oversized Zanbato in flames. The group of vampire ninjas that was facing him become really aware of his skills, for fire really hurts the undead flesh, but then the young horse tamer reached for his small gourd, and filled his mouth with the sacred wine. This of course puzzled the vampires, until he spat the wine in the burning blade, transforming the flames into holy fire. Several vampires turned to ashes just by being exposed to this holy light. The rest tried to run away, and were chased by Matsuke's, who was swinging his blade like a madman. Reikugiri. Reiko shouted, using again her high-speed technique. Her body was infused on a mixture of wind and lightning chakra, her mind already done with the memorization of the attack pattern, and then, with lightning speed, she started to massacre the vampires, whom were able to hold a little defense, because the holy water in the blade was making it hard to block. Soon, Reiko found herself covered in blood and ashes, reward of having slashed all the group she have faced. First and second seals, release. Lee shouted, and then all his tattoos shined with an eerie light, and the sudden flow of power was quite noticeable enough to froze in fear the large group that was in front of him, and Yamato couldn't help but to mistake this with the Hashiman Tonku, and Lee shouted again. Thunderstorm pummel. Lee launched an uncanny barrage of punches. These punches were covered with lightning, and upon connecting with any vampire, this exploded with unholy violence and gore. Due to the sudden entrance of electricity on their bodies, no one was able to escape this barrage, for Lee moved with his godly speed. Meanwhile, inside the church, Anderson was feeling like shit. He was supposed to be out there, not those kids, but the dark-skinned boy was right. He was broken. He lost his 2 reasons to live. First, his beloved Yumi. She died of a sickness when they get into this land. He should have died too, but being a regenerator granted him an unbeatable immune system. And second, someone that he deemed as the worst abomination, but still, battling him made him feel alive, and he really missed him, Alucard, who in the end, helped both him and Yumi to escape from a certain doom on their last mission, a mission where he lost his most beloved golden cross. He was thinking on all of this, when he remembered the package he received, and upon unwrapped it, his eyes went wide. How is it possible? Anderson muttered. In his hands, his lost golden cross was being held once again. It was no mistake, not a fake, for it has holy writings in Latin, an unknown language in this land, and it has the marks of all his battles, and along with his cross, a letter, wrote in Romanian, with blood instead of ink, read as follows. How are you, Judas priest? I'm dead as usual. just a little out of place, inside of an eclipse, can you believe it? I, the no-life king, jailed inside a paradox. Not that it really matters, I managed to contact a friend of your god, he says that in a few thousand years I'll be able to get free of this place filled of nothing. Do you know what it means? No, soon I'll be able to go to visit you, and finally fill that hot air-filled head of yours with bullets. Now move that fanatic ass of yours and stay sharp, I want an epic battle, otherwise it won't be worth waiting. As Anderson finished reading this letter, Sarah's came to him, holding something in her delicate hands. Father Anderson, I know you said no, but I fixed your old blades. I know you are not a fighter, that you don't like to spill blood, but I think that you may need them. Father Anderson, Sarah's froze in place. As she was talking, Anderson's face darkened, and upon moving his small glasses to a more comfortable angle, a sadistic grin adorned his face. Thank you, my little angel, now go with the rest of the people, it's time for me to purify this place, Anderson said while taking his bayonets from Sarah's hands, who suddenly realized that being outside fighting vampires was not so scary anymore. Back with Hinata. The kunoichi vampires were looking at the stabbed girl with pride, such sweet and young, they were already savoring the blood that they were about to feast, when the sounds of two things hiding the ground made them to turn around, just in time to see their decapitated sisters becoming blood fountains, covering them in their blood while falling forward, Hinata standing behind them, with a childish smile, holding Masamune in her hands, blood-stained. The two kunoichis turned to face each other, true terror showed in their faces, then, slowly turned to face the one she stabbed. It was exactly the same girl, not a Kawamiri or Henge, for she was still bleeding. Then she opened her eyes. Surprise, said Atani, before making her nails grow and stabbing the vampires, and then revolving her long nails, until the vampires were only a shower of guts and blood. A job so well done requires a double pay, don't you think, Hinata-chan, Atani moaned, thing that made Hinata sweat drop. She didn't like how that double pay sounded. With Naruto? Damn it, is he never going to die? Luke asked to no one in particular. A moment ago, he raised from the ground, his wound barely healed, while Naruto's wound looked still fresh. Then they started to exchange gunshots, Luke doing his best evading them, while Naruto was still on his throne, receiving every shot. This continued for a while, until Luke ran out of bullets. Damn it, Luke shouted, and then one of Naruto's bullets destroyed his gun. Oh crap, Luke said again, and now watched Naruto to stand up, and soon, all the blood that came out of his body returned to it. It was a gruesome sight, seeing all the gore in the ground to fly to refill the decaying body of the kid, who started to regenerate, not only the flesh, but the clothes too. What the hell, what are you, a true immortal? Luke asked, in morbid fascination. Ah, Luke Valentine, you have amused me so much, but it's time for us to fight in another level, something more proper for beings like us, Naruto's distorted voice echoed, and Luke watched in horror how the body of the kid became pitch black, filled with red slittered eyes. Then, 9 shadows extended from below him, and they took the shape of deformed foxes, with heads filled with eyes, and mouths filled with terrifying tusks. At this sight, Luke did the only thing he could think about, run away like a scared girl. Bang! Luke's escape was foiled when the bullet separated his leg from his body, making him fall. He rolled on his back, in order to face his foe, thing that he regretted, for the 9 heads were looking at him with drooling mouths. Stay away from me, you monster, Luke shouted, filled with terror. So, that's all, this is all you can do, whim like a worm, you are worthless, you are worse than human shit. But that can be fixed, you can become fox shit, Naruto said, and then the 9 fox head darted at the sorry vampire. At the church, the battle was coming to an end. Despite how many vampires they killed, more were taking the places of the fallen ones, and after have used so many jutsus, exhaustion was getting the better of Team 11 and Enko. The only one who seemed unaffected was Lee, who looked even happy with all the killing, and the idea of keep fighting. Jan was laughing, it was only a matter of killing that tattooed boy, and then he will kill the priest that was in their way, until a blood-chilling scream filled the air. It was frightening, to hear someone to scream like that, and the worst, it sounded like his brother. Jan was about to turn in the direction of the scream, when the doors of the church opened, and the figure of the priest appeared. Ha! It seems that the rat has finally come out to face the cat, but it won't be so easy. First I'll rape all the women in front of you. Wahahahahaha. Jan laughed. If his brother was dead, he will make the killer suffer with the loss of these people, but the priest only grinned, like a madman, like a sadistic madman. Then his bayonets flashed in his hands, and moved them to form a cross with the edges of the blades. And now, O kings, be ye wise. Be admonished, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son lest he grow angry, and ye perish in the way for his wrath may quickly kindle. Anderson said with a potent voice and a weird accent. At this, Jan gave the order to the remaining ninjas to end the life of the priest, for his presence stopped them from using the vampiric dark arts they seeked, but the priest did not falter. And now, the unholy will perish, for dust art thou, and dust thou will become, Anderson said. Then he spun one bayonet in one hand, and it became three, and then he shouted, Amen. Anderson launched his bayonets, but instead of being only three, thousands of holy bayonets rained on the vampires, decimating them with ease. Amen, he shouted Aegon, and another rain of bayonets fell on the undead, killing even more of them. Amen, this time he shouted with a thunderous voice, launching the bayonets from both hands at the same time, slaughtering the remaining vampire ninjas, leaving Jan alone, and the shinobis only watched with all the show of gore and death. This. No, stay away you freaking monster, Jan shouted, and tried to run away, but as he turned, Lee greeted him with a powerful kick to the jaw, sending him flying to an insane heights. As the power of the kick lessened, Jan found himself almost floating, while seeing stars, due to the hit, and the Lee appeared from behind him, and grabbed him with a steel grip, turning both of them upside down. They darted toward the earth in a drill-like motion. Meteor crash. Lee shouted, and then they impacted the earth, making a very big crater, where Jan laid as a smashed charred corpse. Lee fell to the side of the crater afterwards, and once again, Yamato mistaked this for a lotus technique. He was about to ask, when Anderson started to laugh, but he was laughing at the sight of Naruto, who was being followed by Hinata. It seems that the priest found the required inspiration, didn't he? Hinata asked. Maybe he is still bloodlusting, Naruto replied, and grinned at the priest, who grinned back. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Support the writer. Don't forget to like, sub and share.